Good. Right, I can actually concentrate on the football now.
Yeah, there is a game going on.
There is a game going on. For anyone if anyone is watching, our greatest apologies, but we are watching the Arsenal-Newcastle game. Everyone's expecting a high-scoring game here. I didn't actually give my score prediction, so I'm going to go 3-1 to Arsenal.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know. Newcastle are fantastic, and they've been amazing so far this year, but for some reason, I could just see Arsenal's class really coming through in this game.
Yeah.
And I just like Arsenal, so I'm always going to back them for the win.
Yeah, I've gone for Newcastle. You've got to look with Ødegaard being out. You don't know how they're going to function because he's a pivotal player for them, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
Ødegaard. Do you know what's weird? When you think about it, they signed him for what, 35 million?
Yeah.
What motivated them to make that Havertz signing for 60 million? Because it's like they've made really smart moves and then they signed Havertz for 60 million.
Arteta must see him fitting into the system somehow, but from an outside perspective, it does look a bit bonkers because he kind of flatlined at Chelsea, didn't he? I mean, I know he scored that, he won up Champions League.
Well, that's it. Maybe it's for the Champions League. Maybe he's more tailored for European football.
Yeah.
Havertz, maybe, I don't know.
Well, there is that, and they do have Champions League football now.
And in a weird way, I have a bit of a soft spot for Havertz. I want him to do well for some reason because you see all the articles and stuff. Oh, he's got the physical attributes to be really good, and he does have a little bit of skill. But it was a very strange signing for that amount of money.
It was a lot of money.
I mean, the price will have been boosted up because they're selling it to another London club. Not even just another London club; it's another Premier League club.
That's unusual, that isn't it? You don't really see that much these days, do you?
No.
Like Premier League, especially like say London clubs as well.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea and Arsenal have a fair few crossovers, though, to be fair.
Yeah, they really do, don't
Do they?
I mean, we went over it on an episode a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? It was me, you, and Danny. That was for Chelsea, Arsenal, wasn't it?
Well, think about all the players who have played for both Chelsea
Ashley
and
Cole
Arsenal.
and Gallas, people
Willian,
like that.
Giroud.
Yeah.
David Luiz,
God, yeah.
Havertz,
Petr
Aubameyang.
Cech.
Yeah, literally.
There's fucking loads, isn't there?
Quite a lot, actually. Yeah. One or two.
You could make a starting 11 out of them.
Yeah, some like high-profile names as well, really, isn't it?
Yeah, right. I think I can chill out now. I think it's actually just working with no issues, which compared to last week is a lifesaver. I've put it on the story. Apparently we've got 2 people watching. Welcome to the boys.
Hello.
Should we jump in to one of the first debates of today? I don't really know where to start. I've got all my notes in like a really weird order, so it's probably not the way you've got them, but you're just going to have to live with it. So I wanted to start with this week, the biggest, most prestigious award in football was given out, and that was the Baton Dor, which was given to Messi, which obviously means he's won the most Ballon d'Ors in history. And I think everyone expected it to go to Messi this year. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose with it being a World Cup year, I suppose it does make sense, really. But I think Haaland can he's a bit hard done by, quite frankly, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, if it went to him instead of Messi, I don't think many people would have kicked up a fuss, but it was either going to be one of those two, wasn't it? So
yeah, it's really close. So I've got the voting numbers up here, and I was quite surprised how close it actually was. So Messi got 462 points, and Haaland got 357, which I know it's a bit of a distance, but then like it starts to drop rapidly after that. You've got Mbappe in third, who got 270 points, De Bruyne in fourth with 100, and then under him you've got Rodri, Vinicius Jr., Alvarez, Osimhen, Bernardo Silva and Modric. I'm surprised Modric is still even in the conversation, to be honest. I know he's good, but I don't know how good he is. What do you think of this? Do you think he was hard done by? Haaland was hard done by?
I think the Ballon d'Or, obviously, is the most prestigious award an individual player can get, but it is a fucking popularity contest at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Messi. I know he won the World Cup, and you've got to take that into consideration because it's the biggest trophy of all for a footballer. But in League One, I think he got 16 goals, 16 assists. Like, he didn't set the league alight. In a star-studded PSG team, which you probably would have expected him to get a few more, Messi being Messi. But I think the records that Haaland were breaking last year, it's really unfortunate, and I feel for him that he didn't win it. But with Messi winning the World Cup, you couldn't really see it going anywhere else.
No.
Now that's the thing for me. I think it's a really tough one to argue against, but at the same time, I feel like Messi deserves to have won it, and he had that obviously huge World Cup moment, but Haaland deserved to win it a little bit more based on his actual performances week in, week out. Whereas Messi, I think it's a bit more of that nostalgic. He just, do you know what I mean?
I think everyone who's a football fan wanted Messi to win the World Cup, didn't they? Just for the good of football. So it was inevitable. As soon as Argentina won the World Cup, they thought, well, Messi is going to get the Ballon d'Or now, isn't he? So
he was nailed on after that, and that's the thing. I did kind of want him to win it because he's one of I'd say the best player we've ever seen, and it's the one trophy that's obviously eluded him so far. So it was great for football, like you said, for him to win it. But for Haaland to have the season they had, to do that week in, week out, what he was doing in his first season, win the treble as well.
First season in the Premier League. His
so
numbers.
Unfortunate, man. It's you do really feel for him because you think he's not going to hit them numbers again anytime soon. And
well, he might.
I mean, to be honest, he's still got another good 10 years. So
well,
he will win it eventually, won't he? You know,
it's all the records that he broke last season. Obviously, you're not going to see records getting broken week in, week out like he did last season because it was obviously his first season. And he just felt like he was breaking a record every week.
He'd have to really outperform himself in a different season to even come close to the numbers he did last year. Because we mentioned it the other week. Josh said he was like a robot last year.
And City won the treble, and it's the first Champions League. Do you know what I mean? You just think, and that's what gives what he was doing more meaning.
I always feel when it is the Ballon d'Or, you know, when the award's given out, if it's in a World Cup year, I always like say I think it's a bit skewed, isn't it? Because it, you know, if the team wins the World Cup and a player, you know, helps them do that, they generally win it, don't they? So if it's a year that's not a World Cup year, I think that's more of a accurate kind of like telling of who the best is.
It kind of you look at the actual season as a whole instead of narrowed down to one 4-week tournament.
Yeah,
you just look at the whole year instead of obviously, as I said,
is it just the calendar year or is it the season? Is it just the 2023 year? Is that what it was? So
I think they're changing the way it works actually. So I think it's at the currently it's based on the whole year, like a calendar year. Whereas soon they're going to do it like for a season. So it's whatever happens within a set season.
And it'll be like, say, the one that's just happened, it'll have been for last season, Haaland season, when they obviously run the treble. That's kind of what it'll be like, right?
Right, so I've got a question to you relating to the Ballon d'Or. Obviously, we saw Bellingham won the, Golden Boy Award?
Copper trophy or something. Yeah.
Who do you think is going to win the next Ballon d'Or? And do you have a sneaky shout for someone you think might win it in a couple of years that hasn't yet? Like maybe they're not quite to Bellingham level.
I think if he keeps going at the rate he's doing now,
England
and Madrid, and Madrid win Champions League, England do. I think Bellingham could
Bellingham for next year.
Yeah,
Bellingham for next year. Madrid should do well this year. They're firing from all cylinders, and honestly, I'd love for England to win the Euros.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if they did, it's like you said, tournament. It takes over how they look at it. And if he performs in that tournament and we end up actually winning something, who else is going to win it?
Yeah, if England finally win a major international tournament, I do think it'll definitely be an English player that picks it up.
Okay, and if you know,
I was literally about to say, I think Harry Kane's in with a big shout because he's obviously going to smash it up in the Bundesliga this year.
And he's the England captain as well, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
His stats will be undeniable. So if he then goes and wins the Euros with England and scores 40 plus goals in the Bundesliga, probably makes it to the Champions League semi-final, if not further, then you would expect him to actually be in with a good shout at the Ballon d'Or.
It could potentially be an English top two next year. It really could.
Michael Owen, was he the last one to win it in 2001? Wasn't it? That's crazy.
The last English player to win it.
Did you see Bayern Munich got knocked out of the cup by a German third division
something
side?
like that? Yeah.
That's incredible, isn't it?
I've seen Thomas Muller. There was a clip of him going to speak to the fans after the game. You've got to think, what do you even say to the fans after a game like that? I mean, these things happen in football, but obviously the Munich fans will expect a lot more from the team. Not just the Munich fans, everybody would expect more from Munich. But what do you even say at the end of that? I
proper don't get that, mate. Do you know when a player goes and speaks to the fans after a loss? I'm like, what's the point in actually... Who does that?
Yeah.
Would it really, as a fan, would it make you feel better if you just watch your team get battered and then when the players comes over and goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry"?
It'd be better than seeing them run down the tunnel, which some do after shocking performances, barely acknowledge the fans. No. Like Bamford after Stoke the other week, he didn't even clap the fans. But obviously, you can kind of understand why he wouldn't, because he'll have been getting abuse hurled at him, but rightfully so.
Yeah, sometimes you have to just take the abuse as well, don't you? If your performance has been genuinely dreadful,
if the abuse is justified,
just take the L if you have to.
Absolutely.
But I mean, Messi with the Ballon d'Or, deserved, yes. Controversial also. Do you know what I think is the biggest robbery in Ballon d'Or history?
I know what you're going to say.
The fact Lewandowski never got a Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know, in the year when there wasn't an award and he won everything.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
But the season, obviously there was a pause in the season, but it's not like we hit factory reset. The season got played out, and that was the year he was in contention for it, and they just cancelled the ceremony. But it's probably because they couldn't have the actual big ceremony with hundreds of people coming to Paris and, being the showpiece that it is. And because they can't hold that, They probably just thought, well, we'll just do it this year then.
That's ridiculous. You should just give it to him anyway. Just
Of course.
like announce it and just send it to him in the post or something. I don't know. Just give it to him definitely.
It's not about the players though. It's about the fucking big wigs there, and that's what they make it all about themselves. When you're really there to celebrate football and the people that play it.
Yeah, because there's no reason for it not to happen. It literally made no difference. They could have still given him the award and somehow sent it out to him. Yeah. As you said, Ellis, I think it's just because they wanted everyone there, which isn't really
it's
on,
shocking,
is it?
really, isn't it? Yeah. You got to feel for him. Really got to
I
feel.
think also with the Ballon d'Or, I think a few years ago, I think when Van Dijk lost out to Messi by like four votes or something ridiculous like that in like 2019 or something like that. So he was, for a defender to win it as well. I don't know when the last defender was it. Was it Cannavaro or something like that maybe?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
It's really difficult for anybody that's not a forward player to win it. So for Van Dijk to be within literal touch,
it was literally a handful of votes as well. It's nuts.
I mean, it speaks volumes for the season. Pardon me, the season that he had and the impact that he had on Liverpool. But yeah, I wonder.
Newcastle on the attack here, on the edge of the Arsenal box.
Is that Miggy Almiron?
Almiron puts it across. Yeah.
Thinking maybe Wilson could have let that run.
It didn't really do much there, did they? But
and Declan Rice driving forward. Look at him go.
Declan Rice on the attack for Arsenal. He's literally taking it all the way up the pitch. Should have had a shot, but
yeah, Nketiah got blocked off slightly then, didn't he? Saka fancied it. It's fallen to Rice there.
Yeah.
It's end to end at the moment.
Arsenal in the box with Martinelli.
Is that going to fall?
Guess it's a Saka.
Oh, you've got to have a look. You need to have some kind of spatial awareness there, haven't you?
It's poor.
A few what could have been good opportunities for a shot there from Arsenal, but they don't manage to take advantage of any of them.
Nobody willing to pull the trigger there, eh?
No. But, good end-to-end action. Declan Rice, I still don't really know how good Rice is at attacking. I know he's a good box-to-box holding midfielder, but I never see him in that light.
I just think because he doesn't have that pace, he doesn't have that energetic pace, you just kind of think he's a bit sluggish, but he'll just run, won't he? And he can carry the ball, which is good. But
like then he did drive forward really well, but then he kind of stuttered and didn't know exactly what to do with it when he did get towards the final third. Good at carrying the ball, as he said, but then it's that end product.
Arsenal with a corner. Oh. Get it in the box. Again, they just left the ball. Jorginho tries a volley from outside the box, but easy block for Newcastle.
There was a bit of a wrestle going on in area then, I think, between Nketiah and a Newcastle defender. I couldn't quite see who it was.
A bit of sustained pressure here, though, for Arsenal for a minute or two. I think that the one thing Arsenal are missing this season, and I know Jesus is injured, but I just think it's a striker. I honestly think all they really need is a good centre-forward and then be in a much better position than they are currently.
Imagine Tony.
Yeah, I think if they get Tony in January.
Fucking brilliant for them, man.
Yeah, that would be a huge signing. But how much would he actually cost them realistically? I mean, I think after his ban, he's only got a year left on his Brentford contract. But
so how much? At least 50, 60, I reckon.
Yeah, I'd say similar to that. 50, 60.
What's the most you'd pay for Tony if you were Arsenal? Bearing in mind he's going to have a year left on his contract, so you would think...
How much did they pay for Havertz, you just said earlier? Was it 65?
65
if they can
million.
If they can put that on Havertz, they could put up 90 to 100 million on Tony if they really wanted to.
He won't have played for a year as well, remember?
I know, but what is it? I did see a clip of him playing a game, but it's because it can't be like a competitive game.
Behind closed doors one or something.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure he's still kicking a football about, but it's not quite the same thing.
That's the thing. It might take him a bit to get up to his usual sharp self, but you don't just lose your talent. And he's a naturally gifted goal scorer. He's got bags of ability.
He'll be having the best fitness and the best training he possibly can in his scenario as well.
You've got to think it's kind of just like a little hiatus, isn't it? Like he can just literally focus on getting super fit whilst he's out. No risk of picking up injuries. I mean, there obviously is, but you know what I mean? He's not like coming into contact with people.
Focus on getting super fit and learning the best odds. Joining all the tipster pages.
Him and Tonali as well.
Yeah, Tonali. Well, they said he might get banned for the rest of the season.
I heard could be up to 10 months.
It was 10 months.
Arsenal on the attack again with Declan Rice.
There was
another corner.
There was something circling around on Twitter yesterday. You never know how reliable these things are. But a guy apparently in Newcastle or on the outskirts of Newcastle walks past a pub and Tonali was outside smoking a cig.
Oh.
He's Italian, so I won't put it past him.
Yeah, that's true.
I've got to admit, it seems like whenever I go to European cities, there's way more people smoking cigarettes. I don't know, has it actually died down that much in England in comparison to other European cities though?
I don't know. It does seem...
It's a big thing in Europe,
It's massive in Europe. And do you remember when we went to Kiev? I know Well, you've got to think how cheap were they in Kiev though.
In Eastern Europe, I'd expect it, but maybe not so much. When I went to Paris the other week, it was the first time that I missed smoking cigarettes since I stopped because everyone there just had.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, it's the romanticising of cigarettes as well. It's like when you sat in a cafe in Paris with a pint.
That's what it is. That
with a coffee
culture,
or
isn't?
something.
Yeah, having a coffee or it's with the meals and stuff like that. That's what it's all about over there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead, I'm just out here smoking flavoured oil straight
Having
to
a
my
Greg's.
lungs.
Yeah, it's not the same. Is it?
Yeah. Greg's as well, random note, Greg's is the most overrated scran in the world.
Do you reckon?
It's just not that good. There's anything you can get from Greg's, you can get from elsewhere and it's better.
I
It's
love them
not
sandwiches, man. Do you know them like charcoal chicken ones? It's like got a bread like that. It's got a slice in it. Well, they're well nice, like spicy Mexican chicken
No,
sandwiches.
but what I'm saying is when most people think of Greg's, they think about the sausage rolls, the pasties, all them
The
stuff.
steak and chicken bakes, bro, are beautiful. Sausage,
just
bean and
think-
cheese melt.
Sausage, bean and cheese is the one thing I rate, but like the pizza's pretty shit. The sausage
pizza's
roll
shocking.
isn't actually that
You
good.
go to Greg's and get a slice of pizza, and you're the problem, not Greg's.
Yeah.
I actually got one a couple of weeks ago because it was free on O2 Priority, so I was like, it's free, I've got to do it.
All right, we'll let you off.
You've just nailed the contrasting cultures from the continent and in England. It's just horrendous.
Yeah, England's just alcohol and rain, whereas at least Continental's coffee and cigarettes.
Yeah. Paris coffee and cigarettes. In
Yeah.
England, it's Monster and vape.
I was on a train back from Garforth earlier, yeah, and there was a kid in front of me who must have been about 6, just with a can of Monster Ultra. I was thinking, you're going to be buzzing all night, like.
We're doing cartwheels.
No, but back onto the football. It's still 0-0.
There is a game going on, we assure we promise.
Sorry, we're getting towards that Christmas period. It's cold outside. We need to have a laugh as well.
Festive bakes will be back soon.
Oh, fuck off with the Gregs, man. Let's jump into another debate. What should we go into next? Right. I thought this was a really fun one. And shout out to Tom Garrett, because I actually stole it off him because I seen it a couple months ago on his TikTok. But I wanted to create a Mount Rushmore of footballers, right? And this isn't, we'll give a few honourable mentions as well. We don't just have to say 4 as such. But 4 footballers, if someone said to you, I've never really watched football, I want to get into football, who are some footballers that I should watch that'll make me fall in love with the game? What players would you pick? Let's go one each, one at a time.
Well, you've obviously got to say Maradona, I'd say, just from the get-go. Yeah. Maradona, obviously, just like there's that obviously that clip that's renowned of him, just warming up, probably high on coke as well.
He's
doing whatever he wants with the ball, and that you didn't see an awful lot of that in his time. So when a player like him comes to light, so many players base how they play off how he was, and obviously you look at Messi as well. There's similarities in it, but I think he's got to be on there.
Oh, definitely.
I think for me, Maradona was one of the first, or seemingly, obviously there was Pele as well, but seemingly one of the first players who really based the majority of their game around skill and the skills that they had on the ball, as opposed to either like physical attributes, strength, or passing ability. I think he was one of those that changed the way the game was played.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of players from back in the day where they were really good, but when you watch the highlights now, they might have had fantastic stats, but it's not as inspiring. It's not as eye-catching.
I mean, that's true, but I think my choice go on there from back in the days, Johan Cruyff as well. I think the way you talk about players who changed the game, he changed the game, how it was played. He's got a turn named after him. Everyone's tried to do it. We always try to do it, don't we, in five-a-side or whatever. And I just think, because he was a slight figure, he wasn't big, but he was quick and his balance, similar to like George Best as well. I suppose you put George Best up there as well, but I suppose Cruyff had a better, more successful career. But I think just the way he used the ball and just the inventiveness of his play and stuff like that is what we still see today, or what people are still trying to do. You can't not put him on there, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. And he had all the honours as well to match his ability.
Apart from the World Cup, that's the only thing
that eluded him. Yeah,
and that's the same with a lot of players. Isn't it? Like
exactly,
people will 100.
Not everyone wins it. Yeah.
People will 100% look back at Ronaldo and think the only thing that he didn't manage to pick up is that elusive World Cup.
Yeah.
But it's such a difficult tournament to win because it's so rare. But we'll jump into the World Cup more a little bit later. I wanted to go in with my first Mount Rushmore footballer. And my first choice is Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho was incredible.
Flair personified.
Yeah. Throughout his whole career, he had unbelievable skill. He had unbelievable passing and shooting ability. And one of the weirdest things about Ronaldinho for me was a lot of the goals that you've seen him score wasn't just about like pure power in the shot or like finesse. He'd score some strange goals where it's just like a little dink and it'd somehow just fly into the top
Chelsea.
corner.
That one against Chelsea, for Barcelona.
Outside at box, bottom corner.
Bizarre.
Like it wasn't no power behind it, just like woof straight into the bottom corner. Unbelievable player. Obviously had all the honours to match it as well.
Played with a smile on his face as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's what you want, innit?
Did it in practically every big league in the world, bar the Premier League. And I still see clips of Ronaldinho to this day. I seen one on Twitter the other day of him playing like it was like volleyball, football, and he's still got it.
Effortless for him,
Yeah, he's one of those. He's just when I say, if I was telling someone to watch a footballer in the highlights, the silkiness that he had on the pitch was just unbelievable.
Just
what a baller!
like typical perfect Brazilian footballer, isn't he? That's what it is.
He epitomises that for me, though. Like for me personally, obviously you had Pele before him, and there was some like what was it, like Rivaldo and stuff as well before him. But for me, Ronaldinho is that Brazilian footballer, that skillful.
Yeah.
Just as you said, the smile on the face,
The
happy.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did it well. So he's my first pick from Mount Rushmore. Who have you got next, Ellis?
Right, so next, obviously...
Newcastle! Oh, Newcastle with a shot over the bar there. Callum Wilson pretty much in the 6-yard box. He probably should have done a little bit better with that. But second on Mount Rushmore.
Well, obviously, with the main four, we're just going obvious ones, but I think you've got to... We've already spoke on Messi. You've got to have Cristiano Ronaldo on there. For me, personally. Just because you go in, like you just mentioned, highlight reels, and you just look at some of the goals that he's actually scored, it's fucking ridiculous, man. Just the technique, like you look at Ronaldo's whole, like he was mentioning Cruyff and how he put his staple on the game. You look at Ronaldo's free kick technique. I know he didn't have the best conversion rate, but a lot of people with a knuckleball adapted that kind of technique purely from what Ronaldo was doing. And you know the 4 strides back, the step to the left, the deep breath before the run up. Like it was just when you think of a free kick taker, not necessarily a free kick scorer, but when you think of like a free kick taker, you would think of Ronaldo, really, wouldn't you?
I think pretty much every kid around the world that has played football in the last 10, 15 years has done that exact Ronaldo, like stepping up for a free kick.
I used to try it all the time when I was younger as well.
I think it's not even just that. Also, the fact of everyone knows his celebration. I think he's got the most iconic celebration in football history. Can you think of one?
That slipped my mind completely. That's massive.
But even people I know that don't like football at all will randomly go, "See," and do the little thing.
It's globally recognised, isn't it?
I mean, like I say, I think he deserves being up there, but obviously putting my Liverpool hat on it, I just think he's just a knobhead. Absolute knobhead. I mean, I get what you're saying about obviously his goals and the way he plays the game, I suppose, but like the fact that you mentioned his free kick thing there, and he didn't actually score that many free kicks.
The conversion rate wasn't great.
So, but we remember him for his preparation for taking a free kick, and that's what you're doing. That. Do you know what I mean? So I just think that just speaks volumes of him. You know, he's quintessential, 100% hard worker. You know, looks after himself, professional. But I just think, when the camera's on him, I just think he cares about himself, to be honest.
Yeah.
But still a great player, obviously.
Yeah.
Right, on that note, I would guess that Ronaldo's not on your Mount Rushmore.
No, he's not on mine.
So who have you got next?
Well, obviously putting my Liverpool hat on, I'm going to go for John Barnes.
Wow.
But I'm going to go, I suppose, a small period in the late 80s. Very late 80s. I think he was probably one of the best players in the world, playing in probably Liverpool's greatest ever team as well. I just think what he could do as well with the football, especially on that left wing, the way he can clip balls into the box, how many assists he would have got during that time, just unbelievable.
See, I don't actually know that much about Barnes.
No,
well, that's it. I mean, it's because obviously he played the latter few years of his career in centre midfield in the Premier League, and he was quite slow and still could pick a pass. But you speak to any Liverpool fan, he's probably in their top 5 players of all time. Liverpool.
Wow.
And just watch the YouTube clips of him, like say late 80s, like 87 to 89, absolutely insane. I think he played at Ellen Road as well one year, 89, and he just absolutely ran the show.
Yeah,
I speak to any older Leeds fans, I'll let you know.
I'm used to everyone running the show at Ellen Road.
Yes.
It's very rarely Leeds that are running the show at Ellen Road. I mean, maybe this season we might, but I'll jump into my next one. So who have I got? Do you know, I've got a really strange shout, actually, and I think this is just one from my memory when I was growing up watching football compilations and watching football, this was one of the players where I thought, wow, he was really special. I've mentioned him before on the show, and that is Dennis Bergkamp. So I think for me, not only was he a fantastic goal scorer and did really well in that sense, but he's also one of the top all-time assisters in the Premier League. I feel like he was one of those players that genuinely had every aspect to his game.
Yeah.
He was a really tall player as well, which most of the time, tall players tend to lean on that physicality aspect of the game a lot more. But in terms of technical football, there's some of the passes that he pulled off, brilliant. And the skill that he had, it was unbelievable. And I put him on that Mount Rushmore because, as I said, he was one of the people that as a kid, I fell in love with football because of him. Yeah. So if I was going to tell someone else to watch a certain player, it would definitely be, he would be one of the ones that I would recommend because...
Oh, special player. Really, really good player.
Yeah. Do you know much about Bergkamp?
Well, obviously, through highlight reels, you see a lot, and you've got obviously that iconic Bergkamp goal for Arsenal, where he turns his man... that is Bergkamp, isn't it? I'm thinking
it is.
You see that on repeat, and that does the rounds on social media constantly. And this is a goal that was scored like 2 decades ago nearly.
There's the hat-trick he got against Leicester at Filbert Street as well, where he just unbelievable. Like all the goals, I think, were like top corners, something like that, unbelievable. And then there's the goal he scored for Holland in the World Cup against Argentina as well, which was special. That was at 98.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
it was.
Of course.
Yeah. He just, when we talk about like foreign players coming to England, and you just think, they just light up the game. They just make players around them better. Just the first touch, the awareness, unbelievable.
Everything about him, and he was in that era of Arsenal where Arsenal were a really special side. And
absolutely.
Well, it's weird you say because they signed him. What was it, 95, and Bruce Rioch was the manager. So it's bizarre how Arsenal even signed him from like Inter Milan or something like that. I think he came over, didn't he? Was it Ruud Gullit? There was like an influx of Dutch players or something in the mid-90s. But yeah, it's just bizarre how Bruce Rioch managed to sign him from Inter.
I always find it amazing, like when I look back at footballers and special teams, a lot of the players that spring to mind for me, in whatever list we make, whatever like comparisons we're making between players, etc., there's always those Arsenal players from those old Arsenal squads that pop into it. Like you've got Bergkamp, obviously Henry, Seaman, Pires, Ljungberg, Vieira, Campbell. It's just there's so many players from the Arsenal era that were incredible, and still to this day their style of football would work in modern day football as well, which is again a comparison you can make with a lot of players. But Ellis, did you have anyone else on your Mount Rushmore of footballers?
Well, obviously top 4 players that we've already covered, like your Pelés and Messis and
some honourable mentions as well.
I mean, but still, I think his career could have gone a lot differently if he didn't do his knee, I think it was. But R9, in terms of icons and footballing icons, him as a striker, as a young lad, especially, was just a cut above, really. And you've got to think the signature trim. I'm just thinking of people that have really like laid the claim, really like made an impact and left something along them lines. Like you think of that haircut and you already know it's game over before the game started.
Yeah. R9 was incredible. And he had, I think it's like the best World Cup record ever.
Something like that,
Yeah, like if it wasn't the best one ever, it was certainly close. I agree. That haircut, like a lot of people went and got that haircut, didn't they?
Yeah, it's iconic, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you was on the lines of honourable mentions. I'm going to say, because I seen a clip the other day, if you're talking about highlight reels, watch Matt Letizier's goals, man.
oh God, yeah. But Matt Letizier scored, I mean, one of his goals he scored for, like, I think it was against Blackburn at Ewood Park, like mid-90s again. I think it's one of the best goals I've ever seen. Like, just his touch and his technique and straight in the top corner. Unbelievable.
Like, someone like him might go under the radar for people who weren't watching football at that time like us, Joe, yeah? Mm-hmm. And you look at him though. What was there, a free kick where like he scooped, like he got passed back to him, scooped up and
just volleyed it in.
Just stuff like that. Just stuff
I think I have
seen.
Yeah. I have seen that free kick, I think. But is it Matt Letizier that has now gone a little bit mental?
Yeah, he's gone a bit crazy, isn't he?
I was going to say, I swear I've seen some stuff with him going a bit mad online. But
I'm pretty sure like his granddaughter or something like that, or like does OnlyFans or some shit, and he got like people always mention it to him on Twitter, and he like melts down. I don't know, something along them lines.
To be fair, that is quite tough. Imagine if you were him in that scenario.
I think he was COVID conspiracy, something like that. I think he's gone a bit off the radar a bit.
Yeah, but apparently his goal compilations were banging, so go check him out.
Brilliant player. Brilliant.
Check it out, man.
Yeah, honestly, I've never really looked into him that much. But what about you, Simon? Have you got anyone else on your list or any honourable mentions to go?
I mean, I'm going to put my Liverpool hat on again. I just think...
You love that Liverpool hat today.
Well, it fits well, but I'm just... to be honest, Robbie Fowler, I think...
Of course, yeah.
Again, if you speak to a Liverpool fan, I mean, personally, he's my favourite player of all time. But there was a period when he burst onto the scene in the mid-90s, from the age of 18 to 22, before I got a bad injury. He averaged over 30 goals a season. Oh, yeah. And that's like for a young player, a young striker playing in a decent Liverpool team, not a great Liverpool team. And if you kind of think if a player of that age did that in today's game, there'd be 100 million price tag, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so like say those numbers are up with like Haaland and Mbappe, and unbelievable. I think he was the most natural finisher we had as well.
Yeah, see, I don't know too much about him, but them numbers are incredible.
It's insane.
The most I know about him really is he's got a legend card on FIFA.
Well, that says it all. He was an unbelievable player, just a great quintessential number 9 striker. Brilliant.
I like that. That's a rogue
a
shout.
lot better than Michael Owen, I can say. A lot better.
So in terms of my honourable mentions, because we've kind of all covered similar ones. I obviously had Messi on there.
Yeah, of course. That goes without saying.
Yeah, and Maradona as well. I didn't have Ronaldo actually, which maybe comes as a surprise to some people. But my honourable mentions, I think the first one I'm going to go for is Didier Drogba.
Oh, well.
More because I've obviously mentioned the technical side of football a lot and how that means a lot, and a lot of those players can continue to look good even to this day. But I think Drogba's style of football was very different. Like, he really took advantage of those physical aspects always just managed to find a way to get the ball in the back of the net. And I just remember watching football and thinking, fuck me, if I was a defender...
You wouldn't want to be up against that, would you?
He was one of the main people where I really wouldn't look forward to playing him. Under any circumstance, there wouldn't be a justification for it. He was good on the ball, good in the air, good powerful shot.
For a big guy, though, he went down very easily. You knocked the side of the
that
TV
element
and
to his
he'd fall
game,
over. Just always,
bit of a scumbag.
Yeah. Oh, just a nasty... Well, not a nasty player, but like you say, one of those players you secretly love, but you do hate as well, kind of. You wish he was on your team.
Yeah. Definitely one of them ones.
Yeah, I love that. It's there's so many players like that for me, but I'll just openly admit it now. I'm just he's a wanker, but I would take him at Leeds.
Yeah, you'd love it, though.
No. Have you got any honourable mentions? Any further ones?
I just think we've got to mention Zidane as well, haven't you?
Zidane didn't even come into my head for this.
I mean, just again, it's just all the players I'm picking. It's just all what they do with the ball, how they they pass the ball, control the ball, and Zidane again 2-footed, and the way he just used to keep it, in tight situations. But that's the name of the game now, isn't it? Keeping hold of possession, keep on your balance and stuff like that. And he was doing that. And he had 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
He had a good level of aggression to him as well.
He was nasty as well. He
was a nasty player, but he was unbelievably skillful. But that World Cup red card, who did he headbutt?
No, was it Materazzi? Was it something?
Yeah, that headbutt red card in the World Cup is one of the most iconic moments in football. That happened before I was born, and
no, it didn't. It was 2006.
2006. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 98.
I watched that.
No.
Well, obviously I was 6 at the time, but I do recall watching it. Then obviously it's been on repeat for years after. Germany 2006. Italy beat him on penalties. He got there was one little clip of him, because when everyone knew he was retiring, and there's just him slowly walking past the World Cup trophy.
Oh yes. Yeah, that's an iconic image, that, isn't it? With his head down.
Down, walking past the trophy. He knew that he'd fucked it, and Italy only ended up winning on penalties in the end. So.
I think, he could definitely be that Mount Rushmore shout, really, because if you consider it as well, as a manager, he won 3 Champions Leagues.
Yeah. Well, what is he probably, I suppose Henry, but he's probably the greatest French player ever, I would have thought. I mean, Mbappe might take him over, but special. Zidane was special.
It would take a lot for Mbappe to take him over. I think Zidane's up there.
He's still got another 10 years left in Mbappe, and look at what he's already done. They've won a World Cup in 2018. In the second half onwards, he ran the show in the World Cup, the best game of football I've ever actually watched. That World Cup final, it was absolutely incredible. It was a blockbuster final, and what did he score, a hat trick as well?
Yeah, I think if you include the penalty.
No,
or was it a hat trick in extra time?
It was 3-3 in the end. He scored all 3 of France's goals. 2 of them were penalties. Don't get me wrong, but one of the goal he scored from open play, all comes over. He just watches it over his shoulder and fires it into the far corner past this year's goalkeeper of the year.
I mean, we said it before though, Ellis, on the stream. I think for Mbappe to really be classed as that like GOAT level, he needs to leave PSG.
He needs to go to Madrid or something like that, doesn't he?
Absolutely, because you just don't know how high his ceiling is if he goes to a team like Madrid. And you imagine France is still going to compete in every tournament that they go to. That's the only team I'm fearful of next year. France. I mean, it sounds obviously a little bit arrogant, but
I'm more trying to think if there's any other teams that I would think, oh shit.
I just think France and England are the best two teams in Europe at the moment. I mean, Spain, kind of a new generation, isn't it? So they're
always going to pass the ball well. Spain. That's the thing about them. But you look at Italy. I mean,
they're struggling.
They might not even qualify. They've not qualified for past 2 World Cups. You look at Germany as well, and you look at that.
Germany. What has happened to Germany?
You look at that squad, and it is honestly awful.
No, it's definitely France, England. Definitely.
Belgium have passed it, way past it.
Yeah.
They had their golden chance, and they didn't win anything. Martinez didn't win anything with that golden generation. Croatia, obviously, I know they're fading off massively now.
And Portugal is still there. I know Ronaldo's like about 80 now, but
they've still got a good squad. Portugal, to be fair, you got your Bernardo Silva, Bruno, Jota as well. They've got a good team. Cancelo, players like that. So I think Portugal are a decent team, scary team.
Germany's the maddest fall off, really, isn't it?
It is a massive fall from grace. Yeah.
The idea of Germany being good, like as a good football team, ended about 8 years ago now, didn't it? Like there was a period, probably up to about 2014, when they were one of the most feared teams.
They won the World Cup in 2014.
That's what I mean. But then after that tournament, what have they really like? There's not even many German players that I think. Like, if I saw them running against an England defence, there's not who Muller.
Well, they got Sane. He's still playing, isn't he? For
Bayern, again, though, he's really injury prone, and like, will he make it to the World Cup? Is he going to be crocked?
Timo Werner's leading your line. You're not filling me with fear.
And didn't they have the World Cup? Didn't they have that big fella as well for Germany? I don't know who he plays for. I think he was a bit like Peter Crouch just came on and lump it up to the big man kind of thing, but.
When all else fails.
I think Italy do that as well. They'll win a World Cup and then suddenly they'll just drop off, like, because Italy haven't qualified for a few tournaments in the last 20 years as well. That's what they do.
Yeah.
When it comes to tournament football, when they're there, they just have that mentality. But
because they've got that mentality of being there,
knowing how to win.
Even if it's not the players that have played in it, they know that playing for this country.
And the managers know it as well.
They've got that mentality. That's why that's why England, until we get that first international trophy, like say we win this next Euros, we could go on and win a few over the next 10, 15 years. But it's just about getting that one and instilling a winning mentality into a squad.
We've been doing it at youth level, so that's definitely helping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the youth setup at England is really good. Like, and I'm a bit more confident that I feel like it's not just the golden generation now; it's the continuing golden generation. And to be honest, I think that's been the case for England for 20 years now. Like the last generation didn't gel very well. It seems like there's more cohesion in the camp nowadays.
They all get along, don't they?
And that's I think that's down to Southgate. I think he's done well in that.
That's one thing that you've got to give him his props for. He has really band the team together, and he brought the country together with the team. Like 2018, I'm not being funny, we got to a semi-final. Regardless, the run wasn't that great. But you look at the 26-man squad. I think it was a 23-man squad. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. I mean, we had players like Eric Dyer starting, and Ashley Young was still playing.
Milner was still playing.
Yeah. Wasn't the best.
The difference in team from that World Cup to the Euros. The following Euros.
Arsenal on the attack here. Sorry, I thought it was a good one from that World Cup to the Euros.
It speaks a lot about what you mentioned, the youth setup, and there's just a constant influx of good young players coming through.
Yeah, it's true, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime.
It's not showing any signs of slowing down, is it? I mean,
you just have to hope that a lot of those players that are doing well continue to get minutes.
Yeah.
Because we've spoke about this before, but a lot of these younger players, especially if they stick in the Premier League, never actually manage to get a chance to become regular starters.
More of them should take leaves out of Bellingham's book and go try their arm abroad, honestly. Because you look
I agree.
You look at how Bellingham was playing week in, week out at Dortmund at 17, 18 years old, and look at the player he's become. You've got to play at the highest level. And I know the Premier League's the best league, but if you go to the Bundesliga, go to La Liga, you get minutes, and you are playing against good teams, good opposition. You're only going to get better.
I think moving abroad, it matures you as a person as well and keep a bit more grounded as well. So
absolutely
makes sense.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of it, 100%.
Yeah.
But we're leading up to half-time in this Arsenal against Newcastle match. To be honest, not that much has happened in terms of a big chance.
It's
for
the final
team.
ball, isn't it? It's been end-to-end, but just no cutting edge at the areas, is it?
Yeah, end-to-end, but far from a final product so far. It seems that a lot of Arsenal's attacks have been led through Declan Rice, who just sprayed a ball out onto Martinelli on the wing, who cuts inside, gets a shot away, but it's straight up Pope. Ooh,
Good position.
yeah, that's a good position. Arsenal seem to have been in some much better positions this game, but haven't actually been able to execute a good shot effectively at any point.
So I mean, they just need a striker, don't they? Someone to put the ball in the net.
The problem is there's a severe lack of strikers in world football at the minute, isn't there?
Like say number 9s, yeah.
Yeah, like the only teams who have successfully done well without an out and out number 9 in the last decade, I'd say, is Man City when they had Jesus, and I mean he still is a decent attacker in that sense, as in going through the middle. And Liverpool are just outstanders for it, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I love a number 9. I mean, looking at Harry Kane, stuff like that, and Lewandowski and all that kind of stuff, and Haaland obviously. But yeah, there seemed to be a dying breed. I don't know.
Is that an elbow to the back of the head from Bruno?
Well, VAR didn't look at it. So.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, there's not been that much. The referee, I haven't really noticed him at all, which is a good sign, isn't it? It's quite free flowing, which is good.
Very rare nowadays that we don't notice the referee in a Premier League match. Newcastle pick up a free kick for what will... Oh no, there's another minute left. I always do that. I always like minus a minute in my head when I'm looking at how much is added on. But now in terms of...
Oh, hello.
Getting
bit of feistiness between Bruno and...
in the thick of it at the moment after elbowing Jorginho back at head. He's squaring up to Declan Rice. Toon,
Barmy Army. I love Newcastle. Not as a club, as a city.
Oh, great city. Good city.
I haven't actually been.
Oh, bro, you'd
good
love
night
it.
out. It's good night out.
Yeah, it's banging for bars and stuff. I went on a stag do. It was nearly the end of me.
I've been a stag do as well.
Honestly, I remember the next day when I was on the way home, I was in the car like shaking. It was actually bad.
Oh my God.
But I've drunk more, but do you know when it's just a particularly bad hangover for some reason?
So it just happens, mate.
I think it was just that Newcastle air, bro.
Oh, yeah.
You know what it is for me? It's when I mix drinks. If I go from, I went like beer, Guinness, whiskey, cider, like it's just a...
that's lethal, yeah.
It's always game over, that, mate. They're the worst hangovers.
Newcastle on the attack to end the half.
First time.
Trips.
Good attack, yeah, good ball as well.
Honestly, the Trippier's range of passing is just unbelievable, man. He's been a great signing for Newcastle. 32 years old, might even be 33 now.
Good player.
I still want him in and around England set up like that, especially for now. His set pieces are ridiculous as well.
He should 110% be a part of that England setup next year. He's been one of the probably the best fullback in the league for the last year, English fullback in the league. There's no way he shouldn't be in there. I think, especially for how much we can take advantage of set pieces as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's got probably the most assists for a defender this season.
Something like that, yeah, definitely.
I'd imagine if it's not him, it's very close.
I think he'll definitely have the most since he even come to Newcastle, because he came. It was January last season, wasn't it, after the takeover? Pardon me. So since then, I reckon he's definitely got top. And I still don't have him in my fantasy. I did last season.
I know. I sometimes have him. Sometimes it's expensive though.
I can't spare the cash at the moment. Yeah. It's tight, isn't it?
Do you know? I do have him. I've never got rid of him.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say I blame you. He's just one of them that should be nailed on in there. But I've got limited funds in there, man.
I wouldn't take any advice from me in fantasy football this year, though.
I'm struggling this year.
It's just not going well.
Yeah, to be honest.
But boys, should we jump into the half-time debate for today?
Go for it.
I think this is one of the biggest announcements, and I don't know. I think it's one of the biggest signs of where football is going in recent years, and that is this week they announced that the 2034 World Cup is going to be hosted in Saudi Arabia. And for me, this is a huge deal. Obviously, Saudi Arabia is having more and more involvement in pretty much every aspect of sport. But I wanted to get you two's thoughts on a World Cup in Saudi Arabia and maybe where they've been for the last few years and where football's going.
I don't know. Again, I think it's quite disappointing it's hard because was it them and Australia were the two main nations, and then mysteriously Australia withdrew their application, and you kind of think, why did they do that? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It just all seems a bit dodgy, but they say that part of the world's in final frontier of football. That's the narrative some people are playing, but it's obvious what's happening, isn't it? It's obvious what's going on. And does it mean another Winter World Cup as well? Maybe, I don't know, but I'd rather have it in a different country, quite frankly. But
yeah, I mean that's the thing. At the end of the day, football, it's for everybody. It is. I mean, fair enough. What was it? It was Qatar, the last one. Mm-hmm. So they're obviously delving into the Middle East. 2034. I don't know. The thing is with Saudi Arabia, as you say, it is quite suspicious. just that Australia withdrew.
Yeah.
But if it had to be another Winter World Cup, the beauty of World Cup is at the end of the season, summertime, and if you've got to kind of move the entire schedule to the end of the year, then I just don't really think it should be happening because it works at the moment. I mean, that last World Cup, fair enough, yeah, it works. It was a good World Cup, but you've got to think about the players as well. Just have they play first part of the season and then they take a little break, play the World Cup, and they come back and they're straight back into the action, and you're just seeing more and more injuries. You've got lots of young players that come through and they might be playing every minute of these games, and they might just end up ruining what could have potentially been a long career by picking up injuries, by forcing a World Cup into the heart of winter.
Into a schedule when it shouldn't be there.
It's been forced. It's been forced in, and it should just be how it has been at the end of the footballing season, summertime. Why change? Why fix something that's not broken?
Do you know, I agree with you in a sense of the scheduling as well. Like, I think as football fans, and not only as football fans, but as I imagine it's the same argument going on within clubs and within FIFA, etc. Like, you want to be able to concentrate on your club for the season and think, right, he's coming back from injury here, we're going to need to pick up these points against these players. Whereas with a World Cup thrown in the middle of it, there's going to be a lot of things that change your season that actually have nothing to do with the running of the club. It's to do with the international level of, like, let's say if you're a club who relies on players that aren't going to amazing international teams that are going to be at the World Cup, their levels of like fitness and medical staff and things like that might not be to the same level. So it's going to massively impact your season.
I mean, to counter that, you kind of the African Cup of Nations that's played in January, isn't it?
Literally about to say that.
I mean, Liverpool, we've been stung with that for the last few years with Mane and Salah and stuff. So I suppose there is, kind of get used to it, but I don't know. It's just.
But the World Cup, especially with our league, the vast majority of players you'd expect to be going to the World Cup, or even the lower teams, if they've got big players, then you expect them to go. So everyone's affected, like you said, with the African Cup of Nations. There's not that many teams that are directly affected from it. Obviously, you guys, what your best player going over, it's not ideal.
Yeah,
and as
I mean,
you said, you get
going over in
this
January.
It's this January.
Yeah. It just seems unnecessary, doesn't it, for it to happen again, kind of thing? Because it was a great World Cup, but the repercussions of injuries and muscle strains, and you forget these players are playing a lot of games, aren't they?
Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, you've got to think that must have had a massive impact as well on him. I mean, he's going to be out for a substantial amount of time. One of City's best players, if not City's best players.
One of the best players in the whole world.
One of the best midfielders in the world, yeah.
Because didn't he get injured in the Champions League final as well, didn't he? And that's, you just don't want to see. You want to see the best players playing the big games, don't you?
Yeah.
But so it's obviously taken a toll, hasn't it? So I just think overall, I just don't think it's a good idea.
It's
and you can see it's happening for certain reasons, and we all kind of know the reasons, don't we? So, but
what can we do?
I think for me, it's a real shame because, like, personally, the fact that within a 20-year space, so within only a set amount of World Cups, we're going to see one in Russia, one in Qatar, and one in Saudi Arabia.
It doesn't look good, that, does it?
It's like literally picking the places. If I could pick where I don't want the World Cup to be for personal reasons, but also I appreciate people saying respect people's culture, whatever. That's cool and fair enough. Like, do your thing, but not when the game I love is going to have to go be played in a country I wouldn't legally allowed to go be myself in. So like for me, it's like a real personal one. And I think the worst thing about it is it's not really been awarded on any kind of footballing merit. Like Qatar especially.
They had to build it from scratch, didn't they?
They had to build everything. Thousands of people died in the building of the stadiums. And it's not, at least at the minute, Saudi Arabia are investing a little bit more in like the infrastructure around football, etc. But even still, we talked about this the other week. Some of the games in Saudi Arabia are getting sub 500 people going.
Did you see that? I think the National League in England had an average attendance throughout the grounds of about 1,000 or about 1,500, and that's the National League. That goes all the way down to like between the 6th and 8th tier of English football. Has an average attendance of more than the top league in Saudi Arabia. So it goes back to, at least you are seeing something that they are trying, and they're getting big players over there. They're not just building from the ground up like Qatar had to do in terms of building stadiums and stuff like that. There is something there. But if you look at it, compare it to the English National League, it's pretty mental.
It's poor, isn't it?
But my problem with it is there's something that's there, in my opinion, is just a government sports washing scheme.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, that's the thing. It's not like there was an organic interest for football to get bigger in that country. Like in some of the South American countries and stuff, like that Brazil World Cup back in the day.
They live and breathe football.
Like they live and breathe football. They love it. Or even if it was in a neighbouring country where there probably is that love for football, but they've never had a big team. Saudi Arabia, it doesn't seem like that's a thing because they've just signed some of the biggest players in the world and the games are still getting atrocious attendances.
Well, there's money to be made for them, isn't it?
Well, it's money to be made for FIFA as well, which is the thing that...
That's it. It was the FIFA president, what's his name? I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Ifan or whatever it is. Just someone you just don't want, organising football. I know we had, was it Sepp Blatter before him? I mean, it's just corrupt. It's just so corrupt and it's so obvious. Like you say, is Russia the next one coming up? Is that the next one?
No, Russia was in the past.
Oh, sorry, Russia.
2018.
What are the next ones before?
So to be fair, we've got the USA one. It's like USA,
That's a
Canada,
good one.
and Mexico.
That'll be a good one.
The 2031 split
between
three continents, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's that then? Who was that then?
It's Spain, Morocco, and Portugal. So it's two continents.
Oh no, sorry. That I'm thinking. I'm sure I was thinking one where there's some played in South America, and I don't know. I might be mistaken, but even still, that's not too bad actually, because Morocco might be classed as a different continent. But when you look at it on the map, they are quite
but
close.
I think again though, I appreciate trying to spread the World Cup out actually,
but it should be in one country.
It defeats the object of it. Like when I look at some of my favourite World Cup tournaments, I relate it to the atmosphere in the country, and I remember the South Africa World Cup because of the vuvuzelas and the
Brazil one was fantastic.
The Brazil one, like
France, Italia 90s, iconic as well.
This is what I mean. Like, what are you going to say for the 2030 World Cup? The Spain, Morocco, and Portugal 2030.
Doesn't roll off the tongue.
Like I know you will just end up saying 2030, but I feel like it's got from a point of FIFA having people's best interests at heart to clearly whatever can make the most money.
Yeah. I think also with these countries, I think there are probably a lot of countries out there can't really afford to host it, so they're coming together with their neighbours, aren't they, to try and lower the cost. I think that plays into it as well, quite frankly, because all these FAs have just got no money, have they, and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I think maybe as many countries aren't offering to host it now as well, and staying in the running, because there's clearly more monetary value for FIFA from other countries, so they know that there's not much point in them putting the money together and coming up with a government proposal to bid for the World Cup because they've got practically no chance. But yeah, I found a comment that I thought was particularly interesting when the FIFA president announced that the World Cup was going to be in Saudi Arabia this week. There was a quote that he said, "Football unites the world like no other sport, and the FIFA World Cup is the perfect showcase for a message of unity and inclusion." And I just thought, what about gay people and women? Yeah. I was just like, well, you can say that, and the message is cool and all. It's a good thing to put on Instagram, but it doesn't really make sense when you give it. It goes
back to what you said about, I understand you've got to respect other people's cultures, but where do you fucking draw the line? Like, at the end of the day, just the values in obviously our own country and countries like this, it's just so different. I mean, as you said, you've got to kind of respect everyone, and there's religious values into it as well. But when it actually comes to some of the stuff that does go on, you just can't really.
Yeah, when you're dying
with some of the stuff,
denying someone their basic human rights, you just can't.
It's literally basic human.
Yeah. I mean, any country, if the World Cup was held in England, people in England have got strange views and all that kind of stuff. So you're never going to have an ideal country or culture to host a World Cup.
Perfect.
But when it's, like I say, human rights, when you're denying basic human rights, should anything be there, quite frankly? Do you know what I mean? So.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's a tough one though. And I think, I guarantee if we post a clip about this one, we're going to get some mega hate and people from those countries saying, well, maybe you should just respect it. But it's not about respecting it. It's about I hate that argument, man. I don't want to turn this into a political podcast at any point, but I gotta get my view across to a certain extent. Whenever people say, oh, you've got to respect other cultures in the way other people do things, if everyone throughout history just respected how other people did things, nothing would change. For things to change, people have got to question it, and you've got to actually in some ways force other countries and cultures and just one-to-one people. You've probably all had friends or family in the past who have thought a certain way, and you've had to educate them or just tell them that this isn't how the way things should be. Might get a bit of hostility at first, but then eventually things change. And I think football's no different. And maybe football could be a driving force for things in those countries to change. The problem is the Qatar one, they just changed the rules for 3 weeks and then went back to exactly how it was before, which for the people living there and for the thousands of people that died building the stadiums under atrocious conditions, won't have actually affected their life in a positive manner at all. No. So where do you draw the line? But fun and games.
happy days.
Never a dull day.
No. Welcome to the Footy Pod. Yeah, I feel like I ain't concentrated on the match much this episode.
Is there a game going on?
No. Not right now. There isn't. Not right now. There isn't. But
been lost in conversation, mate.
We all predicted a really high scoring game.
I mean, I went 2-1,
I'm still 3-3. You never know.
You six second half goals.
You never know. You never know.
Stranger things have happened.
I'm sure. Was it about 10 years ago when Arsenal went 4-0 up or something, and then Newcastle came 4-4. Yeah.
Check Toyota. Rest in peace.
Yeah, bless him.
No, I've been debating in my head. So a little sneak preview for people. We've got a new football themed decoration going up soon. We're going to have loads of cool match attacks from throughout the years going up. And I managed to find some of my old collections from like 2006 and 2013. So I was picking up like the cards that I thought were best, like Ronaldo at Manchester United, Bale at Tottenham. But then I was trying to get some more rogue shouts in there, some of which was I picked Sheikh Tiote from Newcastle. And then I picked...
Get Ben Arthur, man.
I don't think I had him. I don't think he was one of the options.
I remember that goal.
The streets will never forget, man.
I hate that comment, you know.
The streets will never forget.
The streets will never forget because I see it on Twitter every 3 days.
Plays like Tarat.
Yeah, I think I had him as one of the cards.
He's one of them players that pop into your mind when I say the streets will never forget.
Yeah. The question is, do I put Agbonlahor in there?
No.
Who?
Streets will never forget Agbonlahor.
Yeah, what?
Because he's like the worst pundit you've ever seen.
Illustrious career, like 300 games and 70 odd goals, and he goes on like he was a fucking big striker. I just don't like him. I don't like him because of his hateful Leeds, obviously. He's just a prick.
Yeah, he is the number one Leeds hater, to be fair.
He is massive Leeds hater.
He 100% despises Leeds. I don't know why as well. Like, I don't think... Has Leeds ever really taken any aim at Agbonlahor? I've never had any hatred to him up till he started slewing us.
But that's the thing. I think he might have just gone off on a tangent on him one time on Talk Sport or even before then. And then you know what Leeds fans never forget. And look when I turn on the TV and watch a game of football and I hear Karen Kearney commentating, I fucking mute the TV. Karen Kearney, man.
I've got a challenge for you, Ellis. Name one pundit you like.
I like Gary Neville.
You like Gary Neville?
Which is weird for a Leeds fan, but I just like him. Weirdly enough,
he's. I mean, him and Carragher, they are good. I think I personally think Carragher is the best out there. Quite frankly,
I like Micah Richards as well. Not when you ask me if you like what like
Simon's hurt by
I think he'd be a good person to go out with on a night out, but I just don't think he's a good punter. I just don't think he knows the game that
That's
well.
what I was going to say. I wasn't saying that I like him based off his punditry. It's the energy that he kind of brings that makes me like him. And obviously, he was born in Leeds, played for Yorkshire Amateurs.
I played for them as well.
Did you? Yeah, I played there. I played against them a few times for Kirksall, spanked him.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember goal line clearances when I was like 8, and it meant the world to me. But do you know? Like I kind of agree. Richards, I think he's entertaining. He's more of a personality, to have on there. I don't know. Do you know what my problem with Gary Neville is? Right, and I just think. Especially when he's talking about United, he changes his opinion too much. He 1 week he'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's all going well. No, we've made these signings. Ten Hag's doing really well." And then the next week he's like, "Old Trafford's falling down. Get the Glazers out now." It's like, come on, bro, make your mind up.
Does that not sound like every Manchester United fan though? Shout out to Josh, who's not here today.
Yeah.
Josh actually commented saying that I was in the King's seat. But, no, the GOAT seat. Where is he?
The
Where
goat
is he?
seat.
The goat isn't here.
Yeah,
I am really. I'm here. I'm not a ghost.
But yeah, I think a lot of Man United fans are like that. I mean, it's similar to every fan base. I suspect Tottenham are another example of it. When it's going well for them this season, I've not heard any talk of Daniel Levy online. But for the past couple of seasons,
football fans, we're all exactly the same. We're all like the same. That's
reactionary. We react off emotion, and obviously your emotion is determined on how your team's performing, isn't it? So
it's like every Liverpool fan in the summer. We've not signed anyone. We're not doing this. We're playing really well. You know, near the top of the league. Yeah, nothing about that.
There's
now.
No comments on it now.
It's what being a football fan is, isn't it? Unless your team's winning, football's shit, isn't it? So
unless you're a Man City fan, football's shit.
Yeah. Unless you're a Man City fan,
Well,
to be fair, you're definitely right about that Tottenham one. If Tottenham would have lost Kane, and I know they signed Maddison, who's done incredibly well, imagine if he didn't do as well as he's doing. And I mean, obviously, a lot of it is down to what's the man?
Postecoglou.
How did I not remember his name?
Big Ange.
Yeah, if he wasn't doing as well as he is, it'd be hell at Tottenham right now. It really would be.
How long, guys, do you realistically think it's going to stay like this? I mean, they're obviously not going to win the league. Come on.
I think they can qualify for Champions League. I think if top 4 is definitely a possibility.
That's a fucking successful season for them, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they've had an easy start. I think they've had kind fixtures to it. I know what they've got. Chelsea, was it Monday night or something like that? Yeah. But they've had decent set of fixtures. they've got no European football, so
obviously quite fortunate against you guys as well in the end. But the thing is, with, like you just said, on the European side, they can just focus on the league. Top 4 at the start of the season, any Spurs fan would have snatched out your hand, because going back to the first episode of the pods, we kind of did our predictions for the season. I had Spurs outside the top 8.
I did as well.
I think I had them like 9 for 8th.
I picked them as my flop team of the year, and now
I don't think many people would have thought they'd done this well.
The reason I didn't pick them as my flop team was purely because I said, can they be considered a flop when you don't expect anything of them anyway?
Yeah, I'm going to have to clip us up.
Flying, yeah, but that's the beauty of trying to predict a season at the start. You just don't know.
I think from a Liverpool point of view and an Arsenal point of view, and even probably a City point of view, it's quite good that they're there, because they're getting all the headlines and all the other teams or the top teams are going kind of under the radar.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a good place to be. It just reminds me so much of like when we went for the league in 2013-14 with like Suarez and stuff, and we didn't, under Rodgers, we didn't have any European football, and we just like was scoring 5-6 goals nearly every week. All that, everyone, we're going to win the league. And
Suarez
I think
that season,
unbelievable.
That's another streets won't forget.
I think when you say as well, how long can this Tottenham run last? How many times have we said that now, though? I think for the last 4 shows, one of us has said, will Tottenham stay on this form? And they have. They've won every game that they need to win. I think if they manage to pick up the win against Chelsea on Monday, they actually could be in with a shout.
It's a statement win.
As well. I think if they lose Son, I think that's a big thing.
Son, Maddison as well. Yeah, just the players that are firing in all cylinders. And I look at that team, and they're another one that could probably do with an out-and-out striker, because I'm not being funny, Richarlison is not the man to lead a line for any team, not even for Everton. I'm sorry, I don't know where. Tottenham, of all teams as well, they don't really throw the cash around.
50 million, wasn't
60?
It? Was it 60?
60 million for
That's
Richarlison.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
It's a really, really strange move, that. He's honestly terrible. I don't like him at all, if you can't tell.
I kind of like him for some reason, but I don't know why.
Is that player that... But the thing is, though, is that player that you kind of wish you'd have on your team, but I don't think many neutrals would, because he's not that
He's not scoring the goals.
I actually wouldn't want him in my team. I just think he's funny.
For the scumbag behaviour and the way that you see him get stuck in and wind other teams up, that's kind of what we mean with the scumbag element, that you don't mind that when it's on your team. Yeah. But then his main job, his priority is to score goals, and he's not doing that. And he's definitely not justifying a £60 million price tag.
Not in a million years.
I mean, they've even got the audacity, Tottenham fans, they've got a chant to go, he's Brazilian, he only costs 60 million. The absolute audacity of that.
Richarlison, the GOAT, huh? I don't see him ever doing particularly well. He still might get into the Brazil squad every time, though.
I know about who else if they got up top, man.
I'd rather bring fucking Pato back from the dead. Do you remember? He was meant to be a wonder kid at one point.
The streets will never forget that.
I've had enough of you in these streets today.
He must still only be like 25. I
think he's about 18 still.
Yeah, Alexandre Pato. If you don't remember him, you need to get to know.
He did burst onto the scene, didn't he? Micah Richards style.
Was it Milan, AC Milan, who bought him when he was really young or something?
I always remember the goal against Barcelona that he scored. I think it was Champions League.
Yeah, it was AC Milan he was at.
And you've seen the absolute blistering pace on the boy.
I think I used to get him in like Championship Manager like back in the day.
Yeah,
he was one of those football manager
potential
guaranteed good signings. Yeah, I remember there was that era of Brazil when they weren't particularly good, but they just had a couple of like hidden gems coming through. Do you remember it was like Robinho and Pato? Like Robinho was obviously better than Pato.
He was the first kind of like staple signing for Man City. After they had their takeover. Yeah, he didn't exactly flourish, but he was like the big staple.
He's got the Neymar vibes about him, didn't he, Robinho? Just
got the flair, man.
Didn't do it away from home, did he?
No, but a lot of the Brazilians do have the flair, don't they? That's how's that got through?
Rice again, he's a good player, Rice.
I find it so funny.
Brilliant.
Sometimes I think to myself, like, I'll forget very basic things in life, but I'll remember the first big name signing that Man City made in 2008. And I like know what country some random footballer is from just because of FIFA Ultimate Team 6 years ago.
I could probably list World Cup winners since like the 80s and the finals and what they played respectively. Like, it's just weird.
Probably tell me half the team for each one of those World Cup wins.
Most of my geography comes from knowledge of European football.
It's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, seeing flags and going, oh, where's he from?
Like, have you seen clips on, going slightly off topic, seen clips on TikTok of like American TikTokers quizzing the nation on like flags and stuff like that? And you think, like, if football was big over there, they'd know all these flags. They actually would.
Yeah, true. I know where Argentina is, actually. They'll show them Argentina and they'll be like, that's Florida. I actually love those clips. It's always the Americans. Man.
It is mad
Bless
though,
them.
and you've got to think it's because they don't. They're
think that was
not.
a
Football's not that massive over there, and if football was bigger, I genuinely do believe there'd no more flags.
Hey, football's big
Because
over
they'd play
there, bro.
feet. They'd play.
Well, don't they
FIFA.
call like their American sport like baseball, basketball? It's like the world
Oh, yeah,
series for them, isn't it? But it's not. It's just
I
American.
can't remember. It was an American athlete. I don't know what sport he played in, so it's not a great example to give. But he was giving an interview, and I think the journalist said to him, "Oh, like you world champions," and he goes, "World champions of America."
Oh,
Yeah, if like
it was a basketball player.
Was it
I
a
think.
basket?
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
yeah.
he touched on that. He was like, "Well, world champions, but this is just in America, so
Yeah.
it's not exactly world champions, is it?"
I wonder if that kind of annoys him a little bit because, like, realistically, there's only a few sports that are super worldwide. What have you got? Football, rugby. I suppose golf is, but it's more
Cricket.
like
The World Cup's going on at the moment.
Well, no, but
Like
cricket.
proper globally, but yeah, I suppose.
Cricket's massive.
Cricket's more Commonwealth, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's not like there's not like America, Canada, Australia. Oh no, Australia.
Do you know the weird thing is, though, I did check the table for the Cricket World Cup earlier, and do you know one team that really surprised me was on there? Afghanistan.
Afghanistan flying, aren't they?
Afghanistan, and they're
Yeah,
doing quite
yeah,
well.
They beat England, and then everyone thought, "Oh, that's a massive shock." But then I'm sure they beat someone else big as
Yeah,
well.
well, England are dead bottom of the pile, aren't they?
They lost to Australia again.
Again, they lost again. Yeah. Well, it's just been going poor, hasn't it?
Maybe we should do a Derby Days cricket watch along where we see how many pints we can drink and who falls asleep first.
I was going to say you have to do something to make it interesting.
A Sambuca
Well,
for
also,
every
yeah.
6 or something like that.
Yeah, he has hit the ball again. Where is the tequila rose?
My uncle had it on earlier, and mate, he was like watching paint dry. I like keeping up with stuff. Like I'll look at results and like especially in big competitions like the World Cup. But it's just not something I'd sit there and watch. I'd rather watch tennis.
Yeah, I would. I'd rather watch tennis.
I did love. I mean, I'm a football fanatic, but I did love the Rugby World Cup.
I really enjoyed that.
And I love the Lions tour. You know, the British and Irish Lions. When that happens,
Did you watch the semi-final between, was it South Africa and who else was it?
Who was it? Was it?
It was on a Sunday. I remember watching it. It was South Africa against
Ireland.
was it
France.
France.
Yeah,
South Africa,
yeah,
France.
yeah.
It might have been a quarter or a semi, but wow! Like,
Oh, it was insane.
it was
Insane.
actually probably it was the best game of rugby I've seen.
Yeah, yeah.
It was fantastic. I did watch the semi-final between England and South Africa as
that was
well.
painful. That. Yeah.
It was very tough. Went right down to it. A lot
Newcastle
of people thought we'd get
in the
walked out of
box.
It's cutting in too many times, aren't they?
Yeah, there's not.
Nobody's
been a proper
pulling trigger
chance,
on
yeah.
either team, are they?
It's been a pretty boring game overall, to be honest.
Second
hasn't
half's
it?
not the best, is it?
No, I mean, we look at it before the game starts as well. We look at Newcastle and Arsenal, both teams doing considerably well, and you see goals in it, but then you can't really judge a game of football off that, can you? Like, you look at Leeds-Leicester yesterday, I had an accumulator on with both teams to score over 2.5 goals, because I thought it might have been a 2-2, and it ends up being a 1-0. It's hard to predict these kind of things, isn't it?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you in love with Daniel Farke right now?
Daniel Farke, honestly, it's like going through a breakup and having a few bad flings and then finding the love of your life. The initial breakup being Marcelo Bielsa. Do you know the gut wrencher?
Do you know who he reminds me of? You know Roger Federer?
Yeah.
If Roger Federer found the mask and put the mask on, you know, from the Jim Carrey film,
Yeah.
that's what he'd look like. I've always thought that.
I can kind of see it.
I do know where you're coming
Yeah.
from. That's the roguish. It took me a minute to put that
Yeah.
together in my head, but
I
like
had to
I know
go-
what
Jim
you mean.
Carrey, when he puts the mask on, and when the bad guy puts the mask on in the mask, that's how
That's how
Roger
Daniel
Federer
Farke
would look.
looks. Well, do you know what? I'd take that mask off for Daniel Farke. He's doing great with
He's
it so
doing well.
far.
He's doing good.
But back onto the Premier League. I'm really surprised, speaking of managers. Oh, poor shot there from Eddie. I'm really surprised, speaking of managers, that there's not been a manager to lose their job yet in
I
the
know,
Premier
yeah.
League. There's a few that I think flirting around it. But who do you guys... Wait, Newcastle, one-on-one?
Oh,
Oh, Gordon had a golden opportunity there.
The trigger quick enough. Managers, sorry.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that a Premier League manager
Very
hasn't
strange.
yet lost their job. Who do you boys think is going to be the first manager to get fired?
I think first manager, it's tough because you could make an argument for the entire bottom three at the moment. Although I do think Burnley will stick with Company.
Yeah, I think Company's
Yeah.
in a weirdly safe position.
He's an up and coming manager, so I think they're going to give him a little bit of time. I think Heckingbottom's well, they just won today. If they didn't win today, I'd probably say Heckingbottom nailed on.
But I don't even know if I'd say Heckingbottom, because as bad as they are, I think they should have realistically expected this. They
Yeah.
didn't have a good transfer window. They came up, but they barely signed
But
anyone.
wasn't it last time they were in the Premier League? I can't remember who was in charge of him. I think, but they played Arsenal and they got dicked, and didn't get sacked. No, actually, I think I might be mistaken. But going back to what you said, I do think Ten Hag's in trouble.
Yeah, I actually think, and I've said this multiple times, but usually I've got Josh here blabbering, that Ten Hag is shit.
His man management does not appear to be great as well.
I don't know what aspect of Ten Hag's game Man United fans are still in love with at all.
You look at it, and it goes without saying they've not got an identity, and it goes back to what I just said. Then man management, it just appears to be quite bad. What's happened with Sancho? We were just speaking on him earlier. One of England's brightest prospects a couple of years ago. He's gone to Man United and his career's kind of fallen off massively. He's not even getting into the matchday squads. You see Rashford today gets left out because he attended a pre-planned birthday party after the Derby defeat. That's what the speculation is.
Well, I heard that wasn't the reason, but...
I mean, that's what I mean. It's speculation, isn't it? I mean, if that is the case, and you've got to look at his man management, and he's chose Bruno to be captain, that's another bad move, I believe. He's just not the man. He's not the man, I don't think. And I think the EFL Cup win last year, the Carabao Cup, kind of papered over cracks that were there because they didn't have the best Premier League season. I mean, they still got top 4.
Well, yeah, they finished third, didn't they?
I mean, so they still got top 4, but they still don't look threatening.
I've said this a bunch of times. I think that the only reason Manchester United got top 4 last season and won the cup
there was a lot of others,
is just because Marcus Rashford was on good form.
And you've got to look at your Liverpools and your Chelseas that weren't at the races. That gave Newcastle a brilliant opportunity to get top 4 and move on.
Yeah, true. And Liverpool dropped off massively last year.
And Chelsea. Well, I mean, Chelsea aren't doing great already, but you've got to look, that's 2 spaces free that people would have had fighting for top 4 at the start of the season. That's 2 free spaces, so a team like Man United could go in.
So you think Ten Hag could be one of the next to go? What do you think, Simon? Do you think he could go soon?
Bournemouth manager, I don't know his name, but they seem
it's
to be...
Areola?
Yeah, I think they got hammered in there. I mean, it's against City, but I just think... you can get in that position where you start losing, and because they don't score goals today. I think
it's. I don't know why Bournemouth fired their last manager. He's
doing well at Wolves.
They did really well.
Is he at Wolves?
Yeah, he's at Wolves now. But it was completely random. They just got it as if to say, do you know when it's like the owners are trying to be too smart? Like, oh well, we brought him in as a caretaker. He did well. Yeah. So now it's the end of the season. We're going to try bring someone in that we think is better, despite him having a fantastic end to the season with Bournemouth.
Kept him up.
To be honest, I think it kind of serves them right. What's happening?
Yeah. You look at Wolves now under his role. Wolves are another team at the start on the first episode. We thought we were in big trouble, and they're sitting in 13th, 12th at the moment. I mean, I know it's still early days in the season, but you look at Bournemouth, respectively, they're in the relegation zone.
I think they're just above or in it, yeah.
I think
it is really, really
just above 17th,
strange that no one has been sacked yet, because usually there's always been 1 or 2, hasn't there?
There's normally been a couple.
But
yeah, usually it's pretty quick in the Premier League, and I feel like we're going to say this now, and then by the time we get this clip out, there's going to be 3 managers gone.
That's what I mean. That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And ball.
Get him off the pitch, ref. Now I'm trying to think, is there anyone? I do think Company could be in a bit of trouble soon. I know Burnley overperformed last year with him, but they also didn't lose many players when they went down. So you would have expected them to do well in the Championship because they weren't that for the way they played in the Premier League, it probably suited the Championship a little bit more anyway. But Company came in and instilled a different style of playing to those players.
In direct comparison to Dyche, it's just a completely different style of playing it. No. I mean, we look at the Everton game earlier. I was saying earlier, when they were 1-0 up at home, I think it was like the 65th minute, I think they had 17.5% possession at home. And that just basically says everything about the kind of football that Sean Dyche wants to play.
Yeah. Actually disgusting, really.
I mean, they were winning 1-0, so fair enough. But at home, if you've got lower than 20% possession...
Really poor, isn't it?
It's baffling to me that your home should be a fortress. You shouldn't be sat back, soaking up pressure. Against Brighton, they're good, but they're not doing the best at the moment. Wow. So against a team like Brighton, to just sit behind the ball and soak up pressure when you're in your own backyard...
Well, as a fan, if you're at the stadium watching that style of football, it must be really boring.
You don't want to pay your hard-earned money to watch that, do you?
I think you can accept a boring style of football. You can accept a boring style of football, like a more defensive game plan.
Against the bigger teams?
No, not even against the bigger teams. If you're doing well, if you're challenging for something, or you can actually see a vision of the club and where they try to go. Whereas I think it's tough. I
think Everton needed a Sean Dyche to come in because they were all over the place and there was leaking goals. So they needed someone to come in and just tighten things up.
They're picking up points.
You know, he's there to do a job and he's doing the job.
And know what job that he was supposed to be doing as well, I guess.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Sam Allardyce,
I know Everton are all over the place, right? But do you think that it's because of Sean Dyche that because they're not even really doing better? They're flirting around relegation.
I suppose he's making them a bit more difficult for them to be beat, you know. bit harder to play against because before they were just so easy to play against.
6 points off the drop zone at the moment, and at the start of the season, with the acquisitions and stuff like that, I did have them pegged. Maybe not for relegation, but as you said, to be flirting with the prospect.
Yeah, but this.
But I know at 6 points it can all drastically change. But with it now, like he said, he's been brought in, and they know what they brought him in for, and they are picking up the occasional points.
Yeah.
And whereas last season they were really struggling.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised that they managed to get out of it. But after the start of this season, I can't really see them going down purely because there's a good few teams that are a lot worse than them.
I mean, you look, they had Frank Lampard. Would you rather have Frank Lampard? If you would to stay in the Premier League, would you rather have Frank Lampard or Sean Dyche?
Sean Dyche,
yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have Dyche over Lampard, but I'd rather have practically anyone over Lampard.
I'd take Jesse Marsh over Frank Lampard.
Arsenal in the Newcastle box again. It's just flirting around the box, isn't it, so far for both teams?
Yeah.
Again, not really. I think Gordon probably had the best chance this half.
And he didn't pull the trigger, did he?
No. Will you do us a favour, Alice? You see that light box there? Will you just move it back a bit and point it towards me a little bit more?
This?
Yeah, like just move it back a bit because you can just see it in the wide. And keep going.
Oh yeah.
Yes, perfect. Do you know I can just see it in the wide angle camera, and I've just noticed. I don't know how, but it was triggering me. So. But yeah, this has not been the game that we expected. But Martinelli in the box with Arsenal.
Oh, who's that?
Puts a decent ball across. Rice with a bullet header from next to the edge of the box.
Very weird header. Because that was the type of header, like, it never looked like it was going to go on target. Like, I don't know what it was about how he headed it. Like, look.
It's like he headed it with the top of his head instead of his actual forehead.
Give it some, didn't he?
Fucking walloped it. Woof. Woo. Mikel. He's done a good job, really, hasn't he? I mean, they have spent a lot as well, but...
Spend a lot, especially if you're a traditional big six. Everybody spends. That's the modern game for you.
That's my problem with the whole Ten Hag argument. Yeah,
well, he's spent fucking plenty, and you know, I think he said in a midweek presser this week, mentioned on it. He went over his time at Ajax. He was like, "Well, I can't replicate what I did at Ajax because I don't have the players that I had at Ajax." But you've brought in a load of different players that you've obviously greenlit and you've said that you wanted. Because you're not coach, you're manager. Like, you've got say in the transfers.
He brought in the players based on their transfer fees that must have been his highest rated at Ajax. Obviously, other than like De Ligt.
Look at Anthony as a prime example. He obviously was worked with him before, and he thought, "Oh well, I'll bring him in." And it's obviously 100 million they paid for him. And I'd rather have Somerville in my team, even in the Premier League.
Do you know what?
He's fucking awful.
He's terrible, isn't he?
He's really bad.
He's particularly poor, and I don't think anyone expected him to be quite as bad as he is. But again, that is one of Ten Hag's signings. Yeah. And you could say that, I mean, Martinez has been a bit unlucky because he's been really injury prone. But like, he had Onana at Ajax as well, didn't he? Newcastle in the box.
He's dragged it. It's going out for a throw, that.
They just keep the ball in so they can continue attacking Arsenal. Isaac puts the ball in the box. It's 1-0 to Newcastle, but is he offside?
No.
Anthony Gordon with the goal. I can't believe it. Newcastle beating Arsenal 1-0 at St James's Park. Anthony Gordon has lit it up this season in comparison to last year.
I hate it as well because I actually don't know what it is about him. I just don't like him.
I really didn't expect him to do as well as he's done.
He's a good player, though.
I feel like VAR might have a look at this one and change things up quickly.
I want to see it. I want to have a look at it.
I definitely want to see the replay.
Was it for the ball going out? Is that what they're complaining about?
No, because it definitely didn't go out. It was probably just
the ball didn't,
like offside shots. It looked like it was going out for a throw in that. You know, it just looked like it kind of had that.
But I've got to admit, should this stand, it's fantastic play from Newcastle and a lot of dedication to make sure that they keep the ball in.
Up, man. What is that? It definitely didn't go out.
Yeah, the ball didn't go out.
But
is it offside? So he's not. Gordon's not either.
No, it's
easy goal. Newcastle 1-0 against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Needed a goal this game, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did, because that opens it up now. Arsenal have got to go for it now, haven't they?
I mean, it's really good play from... Ellis. Does the ball go out?
It looks out from there.
Yeah, but you've got to think from a bird's eye.
Yeah. I need to see it from above, really, but are you gonna... I don't know. It looks like some of the ball will just be on the pitch still, but it's a really close call. I'm not sure if this one was out or not at all.
Because the thing is, you look at it like that and it looks dead on out, but if you looked at the ball like from directly above,
if you looked at it from like goal line technology,
they obviously don't have that technology for the touch.
Well, they're looking at the other replay now, which suggests to me that they don't think it was actually out of play.
For the push, then.
I think they might be thinking it's handball. Maybe does it come off Joe Linton's hand or his arm when he's getting the ball back across?
It could be a push as well, couldn't it? God, there's fucking dramas, isn't it? We can't just enjoy goals
anymore,
can we?
Do you know, I was in about this yesterday when Leeds scored a goal against Leicester to go 1-0 up in probably our biggest game so far of the season. Best team in the league. They'd won 9 in a row. I could just celebrate freely. Yeah. I knew it wasn't offside, so I was absolutely buzzing. Whereas moments like this, like we're seeing now, where we've been watching this for about an hour. Yeah, watching to see if this Newcastle goal stands. Imagine you're in the stadium. It completely takes the joy and the buzz out the moment.
Do you know the one that really does stand out for me in terms of VAR and how it takes a sting out of celebrations? I think a couple of seasons ago in the Champions League, I think it was at Tottenham when they got to the final against Manchester City. Yeah. Sterling scored what he thought was the winner, and it was a dodgy decision as well. But you got to think, as a fan, you feel like you've just scored the winner. You go absolutely mental to just go from sheer ecstasy to. Yeah. It's
a shame, isn't it? It's a shame.
It kind of takes out that natural element of the game.
Just puts doubt in, doesn't it?
This is going to be disallowed, isn't it, boys? He's got both hands.
A long time.
He's got both hands on his back, and Gabriel is clearly falling forward. I think it's going to be disallowed, but I actually aren't sure it should be.
Because if you're an Arsenal fan, you'd be like, "Oh, yeah, it's definitely."
Oh well, yeah, of course, Arsenal fans would say so, but. Is it? It's not really a push though, is it? He's jumping up for the header. Yeah. That is what you would naturally do in that position. Yeah, VAR, man. I mean, he's definitely not offside, Gordon. Again, though, it makes it a controversial decision. Sometimes I wish we didn't see 100 replays and get to think about, could this have gone wrong? Could this have gone wrong?
What about this?
Because now Arsenal fans are going to feel so hard done by.
Really scrutinising everything. So initially it was a possible out of play, then it was a possible foul. Now they've gone on to a possible offside, and I mean it blatantly isn't. But it's like they get the fucking magnifying glass, let's say, out for every single decision, and it's just too much, man. As I said, it takes away from a natural element of the game, doesn't it? There's technology that I do love with football, like goal line technology is an absolute essential. Yeah. That's an essential, that's a given. They've given it,
it's a goal, so it's 1-0 to Newcastle. That break in between VAR and the goal must have been about 3-4 minutes.
4 minutes, I'd say. Yeah.
Easily. It kills it, doesn't it? At least the fans get to celebrate it twice effectively.
Yeah, well.
Anthony Gordon, man.
Good player. He is a good player. Like I say, he did well in the Euros, didn't he, for under 21s.
When they won it,
And as I said, I think the difference between Newcastle and Arsenal there was purely the fact that Newcastle didn't give up on the opportunity.
They seem to want it a bit more, don't they?
Whereas Arsenal had. Ellis, do you keep moving that light somehow?
No. It must...
It can't. Are you shaking your leg or something? Because it's crept back in, and it can't be doing it itself. Point it towards me a bit more. Like just grab the top. Yeah. Still move it back a bit more. I don't know how that keeps happening to me.
Even me shaking my leg would not bring it closer.
I don't get how it's the ghost. The ghost is moving the lights. Havertz flew into a tackle there straight away after.
Is Jorginho
after a kick off? Oh, was it Jorginho?
No. Just on about in terms of who's got the armband.
Experience, is that what he's going for?
I guess
what
so,
it is.
Yeah. Pardon me. Is that, I was about to say that Spanish connection, but it's bloody Italian.
Yeah, like look at this bit here where like the Arsenal players are all just stood watching. Still, no one pressured him at all. Had the complete free reign to get the ball in the box.
I think he was just going for the ball, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was just going for the ball.
It's not like he's just pushed him. He's actually making an attempt to play the ball, isn't it? So
I think that goal is completely fine and should stand. Yeah. It's not like he's purposely fouled him.
No, you can't argue with that, I don't think. It'd have been really disappointing to see it ruled out. And this gives us a better game now for the remaining, 22 plus stoppage. So it gives it a bit more of an open feel because it's been a little bit lacklustre so far, and it's just been teams flirting around the edge of the box, as you said.
Hey, yeah. No, I'm excited. I hope that my 3-1 Arsenal prediction comes true now.
My 2-1 still on as well.
Yeah, what a job Eddie Howe's done at Newcastle. In fact, let's jump onto that. One of the debates for today is the rise of Newcastle. What I don't even know how to phrase this question. Newcastle have gone from a bottom half flirting with relegation Premier League team, got a takeover, a huge takeover, one of the biggest I've ever seen in my life, and have then gone on to finish in the top 4 in the Premier League. They've done relatively well in the Champions League so far, and they're flirting with the top 4 again. Some people may even say the title challengers, especially if they pick up a win against Arsenal here. What do you boys think about the rise of Newcastle?
I think I think having a good Newcastle team in the Premier League makes the Premier League better. I think, you know, you go back to the 90s and stuff, you know, when it was them against Man United, it makes it exciting. And Newcastle, great city. They love the football up there. So from that point of view, it's good, but then you just kind of have to ask the question, how has it come about? And it's pretty obvious how it's come about. Mm-hmm. You know, you say before they got taken over, they were averaging 10th in the league or something like that, or maybe just below. And then now the Champions League team, and I think it's obvious how, you know, where they are. It's because of the money, quite frankly.
I think it goes back to what you said, though. Eddie Howe has done a fantastic job. Don't get me wrong; they've had an influx of cash, but I mean, I've got a little list here of players that they've signed since the takeover. There's been 10 in total, but I've got 8 here, so just have a listen to them. Yeah, we've got obviously Chris Woods, 25 million, didn't work out. Mm-hmm. Matt Targett, 15 million.
It's a pretty smart signing.
Solid for him. Isak, probably the biggest they've spent, 63 million pound on him. Mm-hmm. He's good. Botman, another solid signing, 35 million. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Dan Burn, 15 million, solid.
Yeah, that's a very good value signing. They needed
to sort the leaky defence out, and they really have. Nick Pope, 10 million, another solid signing, not too much money as well. Trippier, I think it might have been a free, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, he'll be on big money, but it was a free transfer.
On big money, but it was a free transfer. And then Bruno, 35 million. So you look at that and compare it to the other traditional top 6, it's not a massive amount to spend. Obviously, it's not money they could have spent prior to the takeover. So I think in terms of the success, you can't just put it on the money that they've got in, which is a massive factor, but you've got to give a lot of props to Eddie Howe and what he has done with that team. Because there was a few players in that team that were in Steve Bruce's 11 for his last game.
Well, if you look at Miggy Almiron was there, Longstaff was there, and he's been performing really well this year. And to be honest, a lot of the prices on those signings actually surprised me quite a lot.
They're not astronomical, are they?
It's the transfer fees, they are normally say, but it's the wages. Like Trippier will be on huge money.
Obviously, and the wages will be earning a good amount.
And I think they will have used that for the players. Like, you know, was it like Dan Burn and Pope? You know, they're good, decent players, but they'll be on huge wages, and they wouldn't get those wages anywhere else, I don't think, unless you went to like a Man City or a PSG.
Players which they're not going to go to. So
that's what I mean. So I think that Newcastle would we'll just give them extra money and get them in the door. I think that's the benefit of, you know, being taken over by these states and stuff. You've got the money just to speed things up, essentially. Like, if you want a player,
that's the right way to
you can just say, right, we're going to give you this now. And you say, what was it, Chris Wood, what was it, 25
million.
And that's just 25 million. That's nothing to them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. To other clubs, that's a huge amount of money. So I think
say it's gone down the drain, essentially.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what having these takeovers gives you. It just gives you room to make mistakes or to not kind of get your transfers right.
A higher margin for error.
That's what I mean. I think that's what goes under the radar. Like I say, they've not made a massive marquee signing like we talk about Man City with Robinho back in the day. They've not really done that, which is, you suppose, is sensible, a bit more pragmatic. But
you could argue that Isak is one of them, but it's still kind of not on the same level. I mean, I do agree.
I feel like everyone's forgetting about the man who's about to be banned in Tonali. That was 70, 75
and Gordon as well. He was
signing.
50 million. So they
have
spent the money.
The big ones.
I just think because it's not 100 million, it's just all these like players that you add it all up. It is a lot of money, and yes, other teams spend money as well. But it's the wages. Like you look at Haaland at City. What did he cost?
35 million or 50.
So it wasn't that big, but his wages
will be astronomical.
And that's the key, because it's the finances that you don't see. You know, the transfer fee makes the headline, you know, on Twitter, on the papers and everything, but it's the wages that's where these sort of clubs steal a march and everyone else.
Yeah. So. I think it's because it's the long-term financial stability of the club at these clubs is much more obvious, and the players can believe in it, and they know that if they join as well, because of the size of the project, they're more likely to play European football, etc., than they would be joining a different team. And I've kind of got some similar stats to yours, more just about the overall transfers. So last summer, the summer just gone in the transfer window, they spent £150 million on players. They did recoup 40 million though, so that's 110 million net spend. The sold St Maximin was the main way of income. And then in the 2 transfer windows previous to that, so last season altogether, they spent 185 million on players and only recouped 14. So that brings their grand total of spending to just over, well, in fact, quite a bit over 200 million really, about 250, 260 million. And I think the thing is, obviously, Eddie Howe's still done a really good job. And when you compare that to some of the top clubs, it's not a huge amount. But they wouldn't be anywhere near this position if it wasn't for the takeover.
They would under Mike Ashley, they wouldn't have done that. I think, was it Michael Owen was their record transfer for 20 years or something like that? Like, they signed him out 2006 and he was still their record transfer fee. They paid 15 years later, whatever it was. So it's clear and obvious how they've become into the business from where they are.
But like you said, it's like a fast track, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
But it's like, at the same time, I do think that compared to the top few clubs, it's unfair to paint Newcastle in the same light as them because they have spent less still. And I think that a lot of, as Ellis said, a few of the players that have stayed there have improved massively. I mean, admittedly, it might be because of the players that are around them are a lot better, so it makes them look better.
Overall team performance is
like it's obvious that the way they've got to the position they are, as in the top four and probably even challenging for the league in the next couple of years, I wouldn't say they're at that point yet, is because of the new ownership. That's undoubtable. But I think what is also undoubtable is the fact of they've done it in a smarter way with a smarter system from top to bottom than most of the top clubs have done in recent years.
Well, they've not just, like, as a prime example, look at Chelsea and their new ownership. What he's done, obviously, is not the way to do it. Just throw money around. And not in terms of the wages, I mean in terms of the transfer fees. Just throw money around, got big players, got big names, I've gone for that. And like you said, Newcastle have adopted a slightly different approach. I say slightly. They've done
it the sensible way that you would do it, but it's like I say, they've just been given the platform to do it. And it's how did they get that platform? And it's, you've been taken over by
rich
like
people.
State, like a country.
That's what I mean. It's pretty mental when you put it like that, isn't it? Because it's essentially like having a pair of jeans that's got a pocket that just doesn't have a bottom. It's the bottomless pocket.
There's no end to it. But at the same time, like when you compare that to, let's say, the Glazers, who are under a lot of scrutiny at the minute, and rightly so, because they've not been doing a fantastic job, they have also spent a lot of money. Unfortunately for Manchester United fans, not on any of the infrastructure around the club either.
Sorry, look at that. Start in the bottom left corner. Successful passes in the last 10 minutes. Newcastle 1, Arsenal 55. That's an interesting
wow.
That is
Never
crazy.
seen that before.
Last 10 minutes, 1 successful pass.
Especially considering the fact that Arsenal haven't done anything with those 55 passes.
I mean, that's very interesting. Sorry, that's why
I'm waiting. No, it's fine.
Crazy.
I'm waiting to see if Newcastle actually managed to pull off a successful pass.
Oh,
no,
we're going to make it 15 minutes.
It's going to be a big cheer when it happens, isn't it?
Still no successful
That's
passes
wild,
for Newcastle.
you know.
I've never seen that.
No, I've never seen that. No way.
I've just seen that. I had to do a little double take to see if I was actually reading that correctly.
But no, what I was saying is the Glazers have obviously come under a lot of scrutiny, and I think rightly so. But at the same time, they've spent an incredible amount of money when you look over the last few seasons, and in fact, much more money than Newcastle have spent in the last couple of seasons.
Even under Ten Hag.
So can you say, because of those circumstances, that it is actually Eddie Howe is a great manager and Ten Hag isn't? Because, I mean, they haven't spent, like, just on what Manchester United have spent on what Anthony and Onana and Højlund is the same amount as Newcastle have spent in the last 2 seasons combined. And Manchester United will have the same thing with wages, where the wages will be probably even higher than Newcastle's are currently. So it's like, where do you draw the line and stop pinning all the success on the ownership?
Well, I think there's a little bit of a stigma with Middle East ownership. Like, you look at the Glazers, they're American, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Are they?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a stigma with Middle East ownership that especially when they initially take over and you see them throw any kind of money around, you're just like, oh, well, they're rich. And with Manchester United, they have thrown the money around as well. And it's not come off the same that it has for Newcastle over the past 2 seasons. And that's why I did initially say that you do have to give some props to Eddie Howe. Because he's obviously gifted. He does well with the players, made smart signings, and he's obviously got some kind of say in that. Is that
I have no idea what that was. I just started looking around like shit.
It was the carpet.
But yeah, he's made a lot of smart signings, and I think he's got the best out of the players. But on the rise of Newcastle, there was 2 things I wanted to point out that I really aren't a fan of. That I think again, I've had enough of talking about sports washing on this podcast. But
every week,
it's going to keep fucking happening because it won't get
Needs
fixed.
to be said though.
Exactly.
I don't like the fact that they're playing 2 Saudi national matches at St James's Park, and I also don't like how much the Newcastle fans have got on board with it so quickly. I think that
I think it's just obvious. You look at the clubs that have been taken over by these big states. Newcastle, Man City, PSG, even Chelsea when they got taken over by Abramovich. Beforehand, they weren't that successful, and that's what these states they look for. Man United might eventually get taken over by Qatar, whoever kind of thing, but it's no coincidence that the Barcelonas, Madrids, Liverpools, all that kind of, they're not being taken over because the fans wouldn't allow it, and there's too much history. There's too much heritage there that you can't just like Arsenal. You just can't just suddenly wipe that clean and just.
You're right,
do you know
though,
what I mean?
because of
It's no coincidence.
the initial history, like you say, with your Liverpools and your Real Madrids and stuff like that. They've already got like a level of expectation, so there's obviously going to be friction if people like this are taking over. Whereas with Newcastle, for example,
they were so desperate.
They're
for
so
success,
desperate after being under Mike Ashley for so long to see an owner come in that's got bags of money. Their eyes are going to light up. Whereas a team like you said, like Liverpool, Real Madrid, that have already had success and they've had like money behind them, it's not going to turn them over quite. They're not going to lay on the backs quite as easily. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not quite the same vibe, is it? Because they know if they come in and just make some what should be basic good changes for a club of that size, then they're going to be on the good books straight away.
Yeah, exactly. Easy to win them over, isn't it? A lot easier.
Arsenal on the attack on the edge of the box with Zinchenko. Puts the ball in, but
that's another one on the topic of Newcastle that I mentioned before the podcast started. This is their 5th 5:30 Saturday kickoff. I mean, I understand this week's it's Arsenal Newcastle 5:30 on Sky, brilliant. But they played Wolves last week at 5:30, and I think a couple of weeks prior they played Brighton at 5:30 when there was teams like I think not Arsenal, I think Man United. Man United were playing against a relatively decent side at 3 o'clock. It's just it seems a little bit suspicious that they're already on their 5th 5:30 Saturday evening kickoff, and Saudi are only 2 hours ahead of us as well. So 7:30 in the evening run kickoff.
Oh, you know that these companies and organisations.
Can you even remember? I think we might have had one 5:30 kickoff last year.
Yeah, we've not done many.
So it's not a coincidence, is it?
I mean, haven't they changed their? Well, not changed their away kit. It's like green and white.
Yeah, I have that in my notes. The away kit is literally not far off. But it's just the Saudi colours. They've just purposely made the Newcastle away kit the Saudi colours, which is mental when you come to think of it, because it's the most obvious thing they could do.
It's so obvious, and it's like I say, Newcastle. They are a great club, and like having them in the Premier League doing well makes it a better competition. But it's just how it's been done. It's just not right. Not right.
It's not, and it's easy for us to say, like you said, the Newcastle fans will turn over quickly because of what's getting put in. But you know for a fact, if it wasn't Newcastle, this was happening to, let's say it was like Everton.
Well, that's what I mean. I reckon
their fans would be
like
in
an
the
Everton
exact same position.
Or like an Aston Villa or something like, those sort of clubs, kind of not top 10, but like, mid-table clubs.
Relatively big clubs. Yeah. Like the Newcastle, if it wasn't them, their fans would be turning around and saying, well, fucking they've done this and they've done that. But that's, as you say, it goes back to that's just football and football fans for you. It's if it's not happening to you, then it's shocking. And then if it is happening to you, you're just like, oh, fucking brilliant.
Yeah. I wouldn't like it, though. If Leeds were taken over by a state or one of these oil companies, I actually wouldn't enjoy it. It'd make me question if I can continue giving those people my money.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it would. And I know that there's so many arguments.
You're a better man than I am, then, bro.
Damn. It's bonfire night, by the way, so if it sounds like we're about to die, it is because the fireworks outside are going absolutely mental.
Coming at you live from the Gaza Strip, mate.
We've got 7 minutes left in this game, and since Newcastle scored that goal, it does seem to have been practically all Arsenal on the attack. Yeah. They just keep getting the ball on the edge of the box, but not actually doing much with it. But you've got Martinelli again with the ball on the edge of the box, and he puts in a good cross.
Oh, well done.
I think Newcastle's height in defence helps them so much, doesn't it?
They've got so many players with big stature, man, there. It's just, I think going down the wings and crossing it in, especially when Arsenal don't have a target man, is not really the thing to do. But what else can they do? They're getting forced out wide. Really compact in the middle, aren't they, Newcastle?
Yeah, as we said, if Arsenal had that striker, I think they'd be doing so much better this year. I watched a video the other day on how Arsenal this season so far have been getting better and better defensively, but worse and worse in terms of big chances created per game. And I think that we're seeing that more and more. I mean, obviously last year, Jesus was fit for a little bit longer. I mean, he was still out for a lot of the season though. Yeah, but then you also had how long can you rely on Saka and Martinelli to play out and out strikers and to be getting those numbers game in, game out? It's not going to happen.
Bless him, I know he scored a hat-trick against Sheffield United last week, which is great. It doesn't matter if it's Sheffield United, it's still a hat-trick in the Premier League. He's not a striker to be leading the line to a team that kind of want to be up there and challenging, especially after last year.
I've got one for you. Who do you think is the best team in the Premier League that Eddie Nketiah would be starting week in, week out?
So you couldn't say, I think teams outside the top at the moment, I mean, I know Aston Villa are up there, but they've got Watkins, haven't they? And I think with how Watkins is firing at the moment, you wouldn't put him in ahead of him.
So I mean, try think of a team where they don't have a striker that's better than Eddie Nketiah.
Everton. I mean, I know Everton have just got that new fella, aren't they? But I think he'd be good at Everton. Or he's that sort of. like a Bournemouth or something like that. He's just, like Dominic Solanke, that he's that sort of level. Like if he played like 30 games a
like
season,
a Palace, or maybe
he'd score goals, but
maybe even a Brentford if Tony went to Arsenal or Tony went elsewhere. Do you know what I mean?
But all the teams you named there are flirting in the bottom half, especially Bournemouth, Everton, flirting with relegation. So do you not think it's crazy that he's Arsenal's best option when Arsenal are meant to be challenging for the title this season?
He's not the striker that you need when you want to be asking questions of Man City in a title race, because I know they did it last year, and I imagine all the fans would expect them to be up there again. I expect them to be in the mix, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's going to be a 2-horse race like last year.
No, I think that this year's going to be really close, unless City just start to click way more than they have currently.
City start to click, and teams like I still think, even with how good Arsenal have got, I think the only team that can really lay a glove on them is Liverpool. Just because it's like what we said earlier, like going on about if England get that first trophy, it gets that winning mentality into them, and then they can go on and do better. Liverpool have got that winning mentality within the team. They've won trophies, they've won Champions League, Premier League, and they've beat City to the league, and they've taken it down to the wire on 2 other separate occasions. I think if there's a team that's going to do it, it's going to be Liverpool. As good as I think.
I mean, we were terrible last year, but we still beat them at Anfield. Yeah. So Klopp's got his Pepsi number on some occasions.
Sounded like it hit the window.
I actually thought to myself then, I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Do you not think?
It did it? It probably did.
I almost felt it, bro.
Yeah, bonfire night shitting us up. But I know what you mean. I don't know. I think up till the last 5 games of this season, in my opinion, you're going to have Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and then either Newcastle or Tottenham will be flirting around that. Yeah. I think Spurs will drop off. I don't think they'll drop off massively, but I don't think they'll last right until the end of the season.
Yeah, Newcastle Spurs for top 4.
Yeah, I'd say so, and it's going to be really interesting. That's another beauty of the Premier League, even on seasons where teams run away with it. I mean, I know in the COVID season, Liverpool, you guys were clear for a moment as well. There's still that top 4.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, we all love the relegation battle as well. When it goes down to that last game, it's really entertaining. But that battle for the top 4 as well, like when Arsenal played Spurs. Was it season before last, and they got beat by Spurs, and Spurs pipped them. Like it adds so much more to it, doesn't it? Like so when the team does run away with it, you think, oh, it's stagnant, it's a bit boring. But you've got all these other battles that are happening in and around the table,
mini leagues and stuff.
Literally,
well, because the battle for the European spots in the Premier League, there's so many different teams that kind of drop in and out of it throughout the years as well. Like I remember a time when Fulham were playing in the Europa League,
beat Juventus, didn't they?
But did Burnley once get into a European competition? Or they were very close to. I think they did, didn't they, at one point?
You've done. It rings a bell.
I feel like I've got to Google this now.
Yeah, Google it. Pull it up.
Pull it up. Where's the producer?
That's what I mean. We'd have a guy in chair there Googling this stuff as we speak.
Burnley ever played in Europe?
Well, I'm sure, didn't Fulham get to the final? And
Fulham got to the Europa League final.
Got to the final as well.
They beat fucking Juventus. I always remember Fulham beating Juventus because that was massive.
Roy Hodgson,
yeah. Roy's still going, God bless him, at Crystal Palace. He did a decent job with him last year. They were in trouble for a moment.
Yeah, Burnley finished 7th in the Premier League in 2018, which means they secured European football for the first time in 51 years.
When was that, 2018?
Yeah. So this is what I mean. There's a fair few teams that come in and out of those European spots, and it makes it really entertaining in the Premier League. And I obviously saw it with West Ham last season when they went on and got Brighton that European trophy.
Well,
Brighton and Villa been back in it this year as well.
First ever European match the other night, didn't they?
I think it's good that there's so many teams in England that are like, not only just big teams, but they've got a lot of history. So you like constantly look at them and think, oh, could they creep into that like regular top 6, top 8 conversation? Yeah. I think Villa are in there now for me. I don't think they'll drop off.
They're flying now.
They're brilliant, aren't
it's a shame that it didn't work out with Emery at Arsenal. Because I think he's a good manager. But I think Villa is a really good team for him to be at. And he's obviously, listen, when Gerrard was in charge last year, I remember playing them at Villa Park, and they ended up doing us, but they were in the same position as us in terms of relegation.
Under Gerrard, they were
under Gerrard, really poor. Emery comes in, and they absolutely flew for the rest of the year. I think I seen a stat the other day that they have the second most points accumulated this year in terms of calendar year.
Yeah.
So obviously City are top, but even in front of Arsenal in terms of points accumulated this year. How mental is that?
That is actually crazy. And I think the Villa are one of those where they've probably spent a similar amount to Newcastle, realistically. Which isn't, again, like we say that as if it's a lot. It's actually not. When you compare that to some of the big 6 sides, it's not a huge amount, and they're competing with those teams.
Do you know what's mental about Villa as well? It's like a proper butterfly effect moment that after COVID and we initially come back, They had, do you know when goal technology went down? I can't remember who they were playing.
In the playoff final?
But no, not in the playoff final. This is when they're in the Premier League fighting for survival. The game, I think the penultimate game, it may have been the penultimate
It's
game.
Sheffield United.
But yeah, the ball went over the line and the goal didn't get given against them, and they ended up staying up by a point or even goal difference. And they've stayed up, and now they've got European football, they're flying. And they've got a great manager in Emery, and they've got a great group of players. It's just it's weird how
it works out. Yeah.
It's really weird, like it's massive butterfly effects, mate. Because imagine if the technology was working and up and proper, they'd have gone down. And what position would they be in now? Would they have come back up?
It literally would have changed their whole trajectory, wouldn't it? Because the owners probably wouldn't have invested as much. It would have changed. It literally would have changed everything.
It's mental. And now they're playing European football.
Yeah. Well, there was that Tevez one, wasn't there, years ago, where Tevez. Who was he? Was he playing for West Ham and he'd not technically signed a contract or something, but he played anyway and they scored, and then it meant that so-and-so went
it was
down.
Like Sheffield United went down, and then there was loads of went to court or something like that. Yeah.
Always involving Sheffield. Still 1-0 to Newcastle in the game, though. We've got 8 minutes added on, and Arsenal have got a free kick now. Let's see what happens.
They've got to go for it now, haven't they?
Harry Kane's just scored a hat-trick for Bayern Munich.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah.
Baton Dor, mate.
But Harry Kane against Borussia Dortmund as well.
4-0.
It's going to be an English top 2, isn't it?
So, boys, do you actually think then Harry Kane's just got a hat-trick against Borussia Dortmund for Bayern Munich?
Bellingham got that double last week as well.
If he keeps up that form and England do well in the Euros, I think
it's in for a shout, definitely.
Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham for the Ballon d'Or next year.
Yeah.
An English top 2. Who'd have thought?
And me, I'd have thought. I wouldn't have done actually, but I mean, I'd expect Kane to grab goals in the Bundesliga, but maybe not quite to the level that he is doing currently.
I mean, a hat trick today puts him up to like 15. I'm sure
Something like that. Yeah.
He must be closing in on that bloke. That other bloke who scored a fucking hat load.
I think it's also the fact that it's against Dortmund. It's in Bayern Munich's biggest game of the season. Arsenal have been really poor this game in terms of actually creating a good opportunity with all the possession they've had around the Newcastle box. They've done absolutely fuck all.
Leverkusen, sorry. They're flying at the moment.
Yeah, under Xabi Alonso, yeah.
They're playing really good football, aren't they?
I'd take him as next level manager.
I tell you what, he's hot property right now in terms of management.
I think he's got it written into his contract. If either Liverpool, Bayern Munich, or Madrid come calling, he's free to talk to them. I think he's got that written into his contract there. So, yeah, I think his contract runs out when Klopp's runs out.
He'd be a great success for Klopp.
I mean, it's only been a few months, but he's just a football brain. Definitely brilliant.
Yeah, sometimes some players it doesn't work out when they go into management, but when it clicks, it just clicks. And the football that he's got them playing.
Yeah.
In not what you'd consider a star-studded lineup, I see clips week in, week out of some team goals that they've scored, and he's obviously instilled his own philosophy into the team. It's just mental what he's doing.
He was for us in the midfield. He was brilliant. You could just tell he was just so intelligent.
And he just knows the game inside out, and he's been able to translate that into management. His understanding and his knowledge of the game, and not every player can do that, even if they have got a great footballing brain as a player.
Yeah, because I think being a player and being a manager is a completely different feat, isn't it? I think for him as well. I saw a comment the other day saying we posted a video about Fabregas. Saying that he's one of the most underrated midfielders of all time. Someone left in the comments that they said he's the best Spaniard to ever play in the Premier League, and a response to that was, "Have you forgot about Xabi Alonso?" And I thought, well, I know he was good, but I don't think he was here for quite long enough to.
Yeah, I think Fabregas probably was better, but
he played a lot more. Didn't he?
I think Alonso was perfect foil for Gerrard. He was just the amount of assists and just his passing range and his vision. It's brilliant. Like a bit like Bergkamp was, that sort of vision, but obviously from a deeper position. Yeah. Brilliant.
Well, Arsenal have got a corner in the last 4.5 minutes of the game.
Ooh.
They'd definitely take a point right now.
Yeah, I think Arsenal fans would be buzzing with just even an equaliser because they've not really created a good chance all game. They get the corner in.
It's not a great corner either, is it?
No, it's not.
You've got to beat the first man as a professional footballer.
Although they get a second corner now. Trossard's got to do better than that. That looked like a Dan James style delivery right there.
Tell you what, this season though, he's been all right from corners.
He has. Although that whole Leeds attack has been incredible for us so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a joy to watch.
4 minutes left. Trossard about to put a corner in for Arsenal. Another atrocious one.
Just looking for that flick on, aren't they?
Yeah. Then Arsenal have to rush back to defend. Gordon puts a half decent looking ball through to Isak. I just say everything with it. I was in France the other week, and I just really I just speak English to everyone. Me, I'm proper bad for it. Like I'm that person. Well, in fact, I'm not that dickhead British person. I'm more polite than most. But I'll just go up and be like, "Can I have a croissant, please?" Like, I don't
Come on, love. If they don't understand, just say it louder, and then if not, just smash the place.
Or put a bit of an accent on.
Un croissant, por favor.
Por favor.
Yeah, I mean, it's the beauty. That's the thing about us Brits or us English. We do expect everyone else to speak our language, don't we?
Shocking.
It is pretty shocking. How many languages do you speak, though?
I can't even speak English properly.
We've got it.
Got Pig Latin on lock, mate.
We're doing a Derby days away. Away day. Yeah. Are Arsenal going to get out of this? I really don't see it happening, to be honest.
There's not been many clear-cut chances in this game.
Well, it's like what I was saying on how Arsenal haven't particularly been good at attacking this season. This has been plainly obvious in this game.
They were poor midweek as well, didn't they, against West Ham, weren't they?
Yeah, they were really poor against West Ham.
Oh, that's dangerous.
I thought that was going in for a second then. Martinelli with potentially the worst cross I've seen this year.
It's a bit wayward, isn't it? Gabriel on edge of box.
Ooh.
That's an easy foul.
Yeah.
He could have fucking carried on, really.
Yeah, no. Trippier fouls Gabriel to give Arsenal a good free kick on the edge of their box with 2 minutes to go in the game.
Oh, no, yeah, it's got him.
No, it's a clear foul.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was a foul, but I was just questioning whether he's just hit the deck.
Yeah.
But then again, you'd take the free kick, really, wouldn't you?
Can Arsenal do anything from this free kick, though? Have a shot, huh?
Look at them gnashers, mate.
What is with this trend in the world at the minute, yeah? Why is everyone getting these massive fake teeth? I don't get it, me. I see this done on TikTok.
Jurgen Klopp got it, yeah.
I see boys and 40 up.
I get people want nice teeth, but it just looks ridiculous.
It's too obvious, isn't it? It's just like, whoa, you've had them done.
And a lot of them are ones where people have shaved off their real teeth to get fake teeth put on, and a lot of the time the real teeth aren't even that bad. And they've
shaved off their teeth?
Yeah, well, they shave them down.
They shave them to little points to then put the fake ones on.
Yeah.
It's mental.
And they're like lock in, don't they? Yeah,
it's rank. But then the problem is they're going to have to get new fake ones every 10 years, otherwise they're going to be fucked. Arsenal with a shot. Oh.
See, that deflection initially with the camera angle, it looked like
it
headed towards goal, didn't it?
Another corner for Arsenal, a minute left. They've been constantly on the attack since Newcastle got that goal, to be honest, but it's just been a case of they've not managed to do anything with it at any point. No. Woo! Trossard, third time to put in a good corner. I suppose it's clearly a routine, isn't it, where they try to get a flick on, but... And again, just get the ball in the box, damn.
I know. See, me, if I'm a fan there.
It's irritating, isn't it, when you're in the stadium and you see that?
He always looks ill, Trossard. He looks like he's got jaundice or something.
Trossard looks like he's got jaundice. He looks like he hadn't slept for a while. I hear that.
He's very tired.
He looks like he obviously looks yellow. Like you wouldn't look out of place in Springfield.
Oh, I love that one. Arsenal have got some characters in the team. Newcastle with a throw-in, which will probably be the end of the game.
That's got to be it. Just use your heads here.
Joe Linton, absolutely loving it. A player who looked like a flop at first, and now he's got the whole crowd hyped up. We need Tango in the Newcastle crowd.
I know. To be fair, there is a few of them with tops off, and it's absolutely hammering it down.
Do you know, I like seeing Newcastle win a big game like this. It means so much to the fans.
There we go. 1-0 Newcastle. Brilliant.
There the game ends. 1-0 to them.
Yeah.
Not a fantastic performance from either side, to be honest. But again, it was that 1 minute of dedication that Newcastle showed to pick the ball back up.
Yeah.
That's so that leaves us, boys, with this 1-0 win for Newcastle as Tottenham the only unbeaten team in the league so far this season. Because that is Arsenal's first loss of the year. So over to you, Big Ange. Monday night we'll be there.
yeah, we will. That's an unbelievable start. As if Tottenham haven't lost a game this year. I thought Arsenal had already lost as well.
No, that's the first loss.
But yeah, big well done to Newcastle. Yeah. What a win! What a Saturday night for the Toon boys. Yeah. And as for us, well, you boys aren't even here on Monday, are you?
No.
Realistically, we work. It's just I won't be getting back to like 11, and I'm normally literally tucked in bed at 9:45. So.
That's fair enough. So I'm back personally, not with these boys, but I'm back on Monday with a whole other gang to watch Tottenham against Chelsea.
Big game.
Come back for that one. But until then, peace.
Peace.
Thank you.